Chapter 272. He had always wanted to know if Bai Changchun's stargazing technique was the same as his. If it was, would he be able to step into the deity transformation stage one day? Unfortunately, he never had the chance to test it out. About 10 days later, he had recorded the remaining 7 orbits of the star chart into a jade archive. All that was left was to spend some time comprehending the technique contained within. Up until now, he had not dabbled in the operation of the entire starry sky for a longer period of time. The reason was that it was too complicated and time-consuming. It would be better to leave it for another day when he had the time to do so. Although he was practically imprisoned on this island, he could move about freely. Aside from the few buildings in the center of the island, which he was not allowed to enter, Bai Changchun did not restrict him too much. As time passed, he naturally became more familiar with the island's environment. Half a month later, Yu Qianqiu discovered that Healy would fly away from Obedient Island at a certain time every day. He had no idea what he was doing. One day, when Healy held a strangely shaped iron rod and proudly showed off to Yu Qianqiu that it was a transcendent artifact he had refined, Yu Qianqiu suddenly realized, "You leave the island every day to refine this transcendent artifact?" "That's right. No, it's not to refine this transcendent artifact. I'm learning how to refine artifacts, hoping that one day I can become a respected Grandmaster Artificer like the Nanming Patriarch," Healy explained. Yu Qianqiu stared at the iron rod in Healy's hand speechlessly. This unlucky child had probably stayed in Demon Ghost's region for too long and had not seen much of the world. It wasn't easy for him to refine a transcendent artifact, yet he was still so smug and shameless. Looking around at the boundless lake, Yu Qianqiu asked doubtfully, "Is there a fire nearby that can be used to refine artifacts? Why haven't I seen it before?" He knew that the demon race could release demonic fire, but even those in the late stages of passing tribulation could only release it for a short period of time. It was impossible for them to use it to refine artifacts. Furthermore, he was only in the middle stages of passing tribulation, so it was even more impossible. As for the deity transformation demons, he had no idea. "You've only been here for a few days. There are a lot of things you haven't seen in the demon region." Healy admired the rod in his hand and smiled proudly. If there was no raging fire to refine treasures, how could Nanming Ancestor come here to refine spirit treasures? "Have you heard of the 3 true flames? 3 true fire?" Yu Qianqiu muttered and rolled his eyes. Damn it! It was said that in the journey to the west, Taishang Laojun used the 3 true fire to refine Sun Wukong. Shaking his head, he humbly asked for advice. "I've never heard of it. Please enlighten me, Brother Crane." Healy immediately knew that Lu Shang was ignorant and inexperienced. He put away the treasure in his hand and said, "The 3 true fire is rumored to be an immortal fire used by the immortals in the immortal world. It is formed by the fusion of 3 kinds of flames. Even an ordinary immortal would find it difficult to master this technique. Do you know which 3 types of flames it is made from?" "I don't know," Yu Qianqiu shook his head. Healy smiled and said, "The 3 true fire is formed by the fusion of blue fire, black fire, and purple fire. Do you know what these 3 flames are used for?" "I don't know." Yu Qianqiu shook his head. Healy had already started to explain. The blue fire is also known as the essence fire. Its temperature is unimaginably high. It is the best flame for refining treasures. The black fire is known as the netherworld ghost fire. It can burn a person's mind and destroy their consciousness. The purple fire is incredible. It is said that it can melt everything in the world. There is nothing in the mortal world that can stop it. It is said that even the immortals in the immortal world can't resist it if they don't have an immortal treasure. If someone can fuse these 3 flames, they can refine the 3 true fire. If they meet an immortal and kill an immortal, they can look down on everyone. Don't you think it's amazing?" Listening to Brother He's words, "Could it be that you've seen the 3 true fire?" Yu Qianqiu poked his head in front of him and asked suspiciously. Healy smiled and said, "How could that be? It's just a legend passed down from ancient times. Let alone me, I believe that no one in the entire cultivation world has seen it." When he finished speaking, he saw a look of disdain flash across Yu Qianqiu's face. He coughed and added, "Although I've never seen the 3 true fire, I know the whereabouts of 2 of them. Moreover, I've seen one of them, the blue fire." Yu Qianqiu's heart fiercely shrank, but he still sneered disapprovingly. "Healy, you're trying to trick me again. If it's something no one in the cultivation world has ever seen, then how could you have?" Even your own words are contradictory. Do you really think I'm a 3-year-old child? Hearing this, Healy became a little anxious. His expression made it seem as if he had been framed. He once again took out his broken stick and knocked it in his hand. His face was red as he tried to explain. Twilight Valley hides the blue, 9 Serenities hides the black, purple hides the indistinct. Although no one else knows this mnemonic chant, it was passed down by the disciplinary enforcers who guarded the demon domain. How could I lie to others? Moreover, the magic treasure in my hand was refined from the blue fire, so why would I lie to you? I said that no one has ever seen the 3 true fire, not the blue fire. Hee. I say, Healy, I really can't tell. You can casually come up with a whole mnemonic chant to trick people. Are you trying to bully me because I don't understand? Yu Qianqiu shook his head and patted Healy's shoulder. He sighed and said, I have plenty of time. There's no rush. You can continue making it up. Nonsense. Healy was so angry that he couldn't even finish his sentence. Yu Qianqiu guiltily looked around. This guy's brain was a bit messed up. He didn't want to attract Bai Chongqun's attention. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, Since you say I'm talking nonsense, then explain the mnemonic chant to me. You can't just say it's right and force me to believe it. Listen well. Twilight Valley's hidden blue refers to the Twilight Valley to the west of the 1,000-mile lake where the blue fire is hidden. 9 Nether's hidden black refers to the 9 Nether cave where the black fire is hidden. The last 2 lines mean that you don't know where the purple fire is. Now you know that I didn't make it up. In order to redress his grievances, Healy spilled everything in one breath. You're my grandpa. Yu Qianqiu's eyelids twitched as he listened. He was ecstatic and his expression became solemn. Although I don't know if what you said is true or false, it seems that I really did wrongly accuse you. But you can't blame me. After all, I haven't seen it with my own eyes. How about you find a chance to take me to see it? Let's go now. In any case, Master won't be back for another 10 days. I'll take you to see the blue fire now. Healy was so angry that he turned around and left. So Bai Chongqun had already left. The heavens were truly helping him. If the fire art could absorb some of the blue fire, that would be wonderful. Yu Qianqiu repeatedly nodded. Okay. I'll go with you. Let's see if you, Healy, are talking nonsense to deceive others. Unexpectedly, just as Healy was about to leap into the air, he stopped, turned around, and shook his head. This caused the flying sword to fly out. Yu Qianqiu, who was just about to step onto the sword, stepped on air, and the edge of the sword tore a hole in his pants, almost cutting himself. However, this was nothing. Yu Qianqiu grabbed the flying sword and asked in shock, Healy, why aren't you going? Healy shook his head. Under Yu Qianqiu's repeated questioning, he finally frowned and said, Master said that I am not allowed to bring outsiders to Twilight Valley. I cannot bring you. Yu Qianqiu's mouth fell open. It turned out that he had been happy for nothing. His anger flared and he cursed. Fuck! You have guts. You're ruthless. You dare to play with me. Seeing that Chen Shi dared to curse at him, Healy's guilty expression immediately sank. He coldly said, Other than Master, no one in the demon realm dares to curse at me. If you dare to point fingers at me again, be careful that you don't ever see your own fingers again. Yu Qianqiu's mouth opened wide once more when he heard this. Only now did he recall that even though Chen Shi looked young and easy to deceive, Chen Shi was actually a demon cultivator at the intermediate stage of the Tribulation Transcendence realm, and he was utterly unable to defeat Chen Shi. He immediately pulled back his hand and shut his mouth, not daring to act impudently again. Chapter 273. With a cold snort, Healy left with a wave of his hand. Yu Qianqiu squeezed out an awkward smile and cupped his hands. Brother He, have a safe journey. Only after Healy's shadow had disappeared did Yu Qianqiu's smile return to his face. Dejectedly, he returned to his own field and began to replenish the spirit stones for the deficient flame-profound fruits. He had no choice but to lower his head when he was under someone else's roof. After consoling himself, he worked while pondering how to deal with Healy. Originally, when he knew that Bai Chongqun had left, he wanted to sneak away and go to the Beauty of 100 Charms to understand the situation of the cultivation world. But now that he had to deal with the 3 true fire, he was reluctant to leave. It should be known that just absorbing the fire element from the earth fire was already so powerful. If he could make something out of the blue flame, he would be rich. Bai Chongchun was not here, leaving only the silly bird. This was a rare opportunity. Twilight Valley's navy blue. For the next few days, Yu Qianqiu's mind was filled with these words. How urgent! He was truly in a rush. If he did not take advantage of this time to act, it would be difficult once Bai Chongchun returned. He did not know how long it would take for the old man to leave. The most infuriating thing was that the silly bird, He Li, seemed to be truly angry. It had been several days since he had come back, and he could not find him. How urgent! He was so anxious that he wandered around the island. When he had nothing to do, he would wander over to He Li's field to take a look. Unfortunately, there was no one there. He had probably run off to study artifact forging again. Using the blue flame to forge artifacts. When he thought of the blue flame, Yu Qianqiu became anxious. Without realizing it, he had wandered to the westernmost side of the island. He stared blankly to the west, but he could not see the end of the lake. The legendary Twilight Valley was on the other side of the lake. That silly bird was definitely messing around with my blue flame again. He resisted the urge to run over and take a look. He knew that Bai Chongchun could not possibly not have made any arrangements in such an important place. Perhaps the previous torture enforcers had already set up defenses. With his own cultivation, he would definitely not be able to break through. He needed that silly bird to lead the way. Yu Qianqiu stood by the lake and sighed at the sky. A school of fat fish swam leisurely in the lake, as if they were laughing at the people on the shore. In the end, the people on the shore glanced at them and felt very unhappy. They lifted their feet and kicked away a large rock. With a bang, water splashed everywhere, and the school of fish disappeared without a trace. Yu Qianqiu stared at the lake in a daze. After a while, a lewd smile appeared on his face. He released his divine sense to the bottom of the lake and found the school of startled fish. He waved 2 fingers to make a sword art and pointed at the surface of the lake. He shouted, "Go!" Swoosh! 50 flying swords plunged into the water like lightning, creating a huge splash. When the flying swords emerged from the water again, there were 2 plump carps stabbed into each sword. They entered from the head and came out from the tail. Yu Qianqiu jumped up. A flying sword carried him and led the other swords to follow him. They went straight to his resting place. Yu Qianqiu dragged 2 big trees over and used the flying swords to chop them. In just a short while, he had gathered a large pile of firewood. He stacked the firewood in a circle and carefully looked around. With a wave of his hand, a strong flame swept over the pile of firewood. Immediately, the pile of wet firewood was turned into burning charcoal. Then, he made a sword art to the 50 flying swords that were stuck upside down not far away. The flying swords swept over with the fish and stabbed into the burning charcoal in pairs. Yu Qianqiu, who was standing in the middle of the circle, nodded his head in satisfaction at the circle of roasted fish. It was quite interesting to roast 100 fish at the same time. He glanced at the house that he built not far away and revealed an unconcealable smirk. He thought to himself, although this silly bird has already taken human form, it's hard to change its nature. It can be seen from the fact that it likes to live in a bird's nest. It seems like white cranes like to eat fish. He Li, I hope you don't drool. He called over the seasoning tray that had been prepared in Utopia. He used a brush and dipped it into the sauce before carefully smearing it on the roasted fish. The red charcoal fire and the plump carp sizzled as the fish oil dripped onto the fire. As the seasoning gradually seeped in, an alluring fragrance began to spread out. Yu Qianqiu took a deep breath and sighed in self-satisfaction. Not bad, not bad. It smells good enough. As he spoke, he looked towards the western horizon and muttered, "It's already this time. By right, the silly bird should be back by now. As long as she's back, I don't believe that I can't seduce you." As expected, not long after, He Li, who had not appeared for a few days, appeared in the forest not far away. His nose flapped as he looked over, not knowing whether he should come over or not. Yu Qianqiu was constantly observing his surroundings and naturally noticed He Li's presence. Looking at He Li's behavior, he almost laughed out loud and thought to himself that there was a chance. He quickly waved his hand and greeted enthusiastically, "Brother He." He Li nodded his head and walked over with a smile. However, his smile was a little awkward. It was obvious that he had not forgotten what had happened a few days ago. When he got closer, his Adam's apple bobbed and he asked, even though he already knew the answer, "Yu Qianqiu, what are you doing?" "Nothing much. It's just that I saw a lot of fat fish in the lake today, so I couldn't help but catch a few to roast." Yu Qianqiu replied as he dipped the brush in his hand into the sauce. Suddenly, he raised his head and asked, "Is it fragrant?" "Fragrant. Fragrant." Healy nodded his head and glanced at the fish. When he saw that there were 100 of them, he swallowed his saliva and asked, "Brother Yu, are you roasting them to eat?" "Of course. I'm not eating them. Why would I roast them?" Yu Qianqiu said indifferently. He was secretly amused that he had finally changed to calling him Brother Yu. The brush in his hand was smeared neatly, and the fragrance was even more alluring. "Brother Yu, with your cultivation, you should have already abstained from eating. Do you still need to eat these common things?" Healy asked. Just roast them for a while more and they'll be ready." Yu Qianqiu did not answer him. He put the things in his hand on the ground and stood up. He patted the dust off his palms and smiled at him. "Brother He, have you ever eaten roasted fish?" Healy shook his head and replied honestly, "Before I transformed into a human, I often ate them raw. After that, I rarely ate these common things. As for roasted ones, I have never eaten them before." "That's such a pity. Living in this world without eating is meaningless. So, no matter what level of cultivation I have reached, eating is something I can't do without." Yu Qianqiu chuckled and said, "Brother He might not know, but my Yu clan has a unique skill in this world. It's to roast things to eat. No one can compare to the taste of our roasted food. No matter who eats it, they will never forget it." He pointed at the tray on the ground and said, "Brother He, do you see this? This is my family's secret recipe. Try the roasted fish later and you'll know that I'm not bragging." These words made the grilled fish even more fragrant. Healy swallowed his saliva again, nodded and said, "Since it is Brother Yu's family secret recipe, then I must try it." Finished speaking, his eyes stared at the fragrant grilled fish, unable to look away. "Hee. I won't let Brother He down." Yu Qianqiu was grinning from ear to ear. Chapter 274. Speaking of which, Yu Qianqiu's skill at roasting fish truly was quite good. A normal person would usually roast the fish until its exterior was charred black, but the 100 before him were a golden yellow, glistening with oil, and exuding a rich aroma. They truly looked, smelled, and tasted good. In truth, the fish had already been roasted, but he had intentionally waited for a while to whet Lihi's appetite. Seeing that the charcoal fire on the ground was about to extinguish, he made an inviting gesture. "Brother He, come have a taste. It won't taste good if it gets cold." Okay. Lihi unceremoniously pulled out a scalding sword with 2 fish pierced through it. He opened his mouth and bit into the meat, but before he could even chew, he nodded at Yu Qianqiu to show that it was delicious. Yu Qianqiu smiled as he pulled out a sword and took a bite of the fish. He nodded, feeling that his skill had not deteriorated. A normal person would definitely feel scalding if they grabbed this sword, but one of them had a profound cultivation and was unafraid of this little heat, while the other cultivated a fire art and was unafraid of fire or high temperatures. Since he had opened his mouth to eat, Lihi did not stand on ceremony. He tossed aside the sword and the bone and picked up another to gorge himself on. Yu Qianqiu smiled. He did not eat much of the food in his hand. After eating 2 skewers, he suddenly said, "Brother He, did you go to Twilight Valley to forge artifacts again today?" Lihi replied as he chewed on the food in his mouth. He reached out to pull out a 4th skewer of fish. Yu Qianqiu smiled. "When will you take me to Twilight Valley to broaden my horizons? I want to see what one of the 3 true flames, the azure flame, looks like." Lihi's outstretched hand froze in the air. He hesitantly pulled it back and shook his head. "Master said that I can't bring outsiders." His eyes were still glued to the other fish. It was clear that he had not had his fill, but if he refused Lihi's request, it would be rather inexcusable. Silly bird, it was hard to change one's nature. Yu Qianqiu smiled at his appearance and said, "Brother He, eat as much as you want. I can't finish all this by myself." As she spoke, she plucked out a string and handed it to him. "Do you think I'll be able to leave this place in the future?" Healy said without any doubt, In the demon region, without Master's permission, no one dares to leave. Even if you can escape for a while, Master will find you sooner or later. There has never been an exception. That's it. Yu Qianqiu grinned and said, since I can't leave, only you, me and Senior Bai will be staying on this island from now on. As time goes by, do you think I'll still be an outsider? Also, in the demon domain, I don't have any other friends. I truly regard Brother He as one of my own. Could it be that Brother He looks down on me and intends to treat me as an outsider? Even me going to see Twilight Valley's blue flame makes things so difficult for you? Upon hearing this, Healy looked at the grilled fish in his hand, feeling very conflicted. Yu Qianqiu struck while the iron was hot, continuing, in the future, if Senior Bai goes to the Holy Lands of the Eastern Realm, only you and I will be left on Obedient Island. Will us two brothers still count as outsiders? After saying this, he stared at Healy's fluctuating expression and silently smiled. After a long while he chuckled and said, in truth, I just wanted to see the difference between this legendary blue flame and ordinary flames. Forget it, since I've made things so difficult for Brother He, I, Yu Qianqiu, do not like to force others against their will, so it doesn't matter if I don't see it or not. Let's stop here and pretend I never said anything. Brother He, continue eating. If it's not enough, I'll roast some more. It would have been fine if Yu Qianqiu hadn't said anything, but now that he said it, Healy found it even harder to eat. Although he had a natural liking for eating fish, especially when it was roasted so deliciously and only once in 1,000 years, he was no longer a beast that didn't understand human nature. He opened and closed his mouth, looking as if he wanted to say something but stopped himself. In the end, he buried his head in the fish without saying a word. After making a certain someone's heart beat faster and faster, he still didn't get what he wanted to hear. Yu Qianqiu touched his nose and said with a smile, I see that Brother He really likes to eat roasted fish. How about this? I'll teach you my Yu family's secret roasting technique that has never been passed down to outsiders. Brother He can roast it any time you want in the future. What do you think? Healy swallowed the food in his mouth and said in surprise, how can this be? Since it's Brother Yu's secret technique, how can it be passed down to outsiders? Brother He, you're treating me like an outsider. Yu Qianqiu said with a serious expression. In the future when Senior Bai leaves, there will be only the two of us here. I treat you as a brother, and since we're brothers, how can I treat you as an outsider? It's settled then. Pick a time and I'll pass down this secret roasting technique to Brother He. In addition, I trust in Brother He's character. There's no way that you would privately teach this ancestral technique to others. Healy had no idea that there were all sorts of ways to roast food in the secular world, each with its own merits. He leaped to his feet and gazed at Yu Qianqiu, momentarily so moved that he didn't know what to say. How could he have known that it was precisely because Yu Qianqiu knew that he had never left the demon realm that he was blindly tricking him? Brother Yu treats me with sincerity, so I, Healy, will naturally return the favor. Healy took a big bite out of the roasted fish, crunching the bones as he swallowed it. He then said, tomorrow, I'll take Brother Yu to Twilight Valley to see blue fire. Hard work pays off. Yu Qianqiu was inwardly overjoyed, but on the surface he hesitantly said, that's not good. What if Senior Bai finds out? Forget it, no matter how much I want to see it, I can't do something that will implicate Brother He. Healy hesitated for a moment, then firmly said, it's fine. Master usually doesn't return for a while, and I'm familiar with Twilight Valley's seals. I won't trigger them. As long as Brother Yu doesn't say anything, Master shouldn't know. Then I'll go take a look? Yu Qianqiu probed. Healy glanced at the pile of roasted fish and said, once you finish eating this fish, we'll go. He then buried his head in the food. Holy shit. What if you don't pay up after eating? Yu Qianqiu formed a hand seal, and the grilled fish skewers on the ground flew into the air. A flying sword carried him up at the same time. Stepping on the sword, he waved his hand and said, Brother He, I am really impatient to see what the legendary azure flame looks like. Come, let's eat on the way. Healy glanced at the fish skewers already in the air and helplessly followed. Thus, several dozen fish skewers accompanied the two westward in a spectacular manner. Along the way, Healy casually tossed one to Yu Qianqiu, and the flying sword flew into Yu Qianqiu's hand. By the time Healy had finished all the fish, Yu Qianqiu stared strangely at his unsatiated stomach. This stomach really can hold 100 fish. It must have weighed at least 100 jin. He smacked his lips as if he hadn't had enough. When the fish gets cold from the wind, the taste really is much worse. Yu Qianqiu squeezed out a smile. There's no rush. Once we return, I'll immediately teach the secret technique to Brother He. There are many fish in this lake. When the time comes, Brother He can roast them whenever you want. Hearing this, He's eyes lit up, and he nodded repeatedly. After another 2 hours, they could already see the mountains in the distance. Yu Qianqiu looked up at the sky, and then looked into the distance. He asked doubtfully, Brother He, why is the sky above the entire demon ghost region covered with dark clouds, but this 1,000 miles flat lake has a clear blue sky? With He's cultivation, he should have already reached the west bank, but he slowed down to accompany Yu Qianqiu. He smiled. I also don't know. According to Master, there seems to be something deep under the water. Master has dived down several times, but after reaching a certain depth, even with Master's cultivation, he can't go any further. Even his divine sense is blocked by something, and he can't find out what's down there. In fact, I've dived down before, but after 1,000 meters, I can't go any further. It's very strange. What? Even with Senior Bai's cultivation, he can't get to the bottom? Yu Qianqiu lowered his head to look at the deep blue lake in shock. It had to be known that Bai Chongqun's cultivation had already reached the peak of the cultivation world, almost at the level of a half-immortal. To think that he couldn't even reach the bottom of a lake was simply too inconceivable. There was definitely something strange beneath the lake, and he had to find a chance to go down and take a look. What's so strange about that? The demon ghost region is a special existence. Although Master is in charge of this place, there are still many mysterious places that we don't know the ins and outs of. For example, the 9 Netherworld Cave. Master is also unable to reach the bottom. Healy paused and then solemnly said, We're about to reach Twilight Valley, and the valley is heavily guarded. Brother Yu, follow me closely and don't go around recklessly. Otherwise, even I won't be able to save you if you trigger the seal. Chapter 275. Understood. Yu Qianqiu nodded. As expected, there really was a seal. It's a good thing I didn't sneak in earlier. The two quickly flew over the lake and landed on a hill. They had already left the sunlight of the Thousandly Lake and were now shrouded in a hazy fog. Up ahead, they could vaguely make out a mountain range. The mountains were not very tall, but the terrain was abrupt and undulating. Strange plants and ancient trees with intertwining roots roamed the forest. There was nowhere to walk, and the eerily quiet atmosphere made it seem rather frightening. Follow me closely. Heli once more ordered as he floated into the forest. Yu Qianqiu's feet did not touch the ground, and he followed on his sword. The two dodged left and right through the forest, advancing and retreating, making countless turns and turns. This dazzled Yu Qianqiu, who had originally wanted to memorize the path, and he did not dare to get distracted lest he get lost and cause trouble. The two wandered through the forest for a long time. Suddenly, the dense vegetation before them vanished, and a valley between green cliffs appeared. Yu Qianqiu looked around. The strange atmosphere from before had already vanished. He looked down and asked, This is Twilight Valley? Heli grunted and laughed. What you saw just now was an illusion produced by the valley protecting array, but you absolutely cannot underestimate this illusion. There is a great deal of danger within, and the slightest carelessness can lead to your death. Was this array laid down by Senior Bai? Yu Qianqiu asked. Heli shook his head. This array has existed since ancient times, but Master doesn't know when it was laid down. The method to enter and exit the array was passed down by the previous torture envoy of the Fey Ghost region. Let's go. The blue flame you want to see is down there. The two flashed down the valley between the green cliffs. Upon landing, Yu Qianqiu looked up at the hazy sky. The valley truly did feel like night had fallen. No wonder it was called Twilight Valley. Looking at the surrounding scenery carefully, there were occasionally large stones arranged in a picturesque manner. In addition, there were traces of carvings on the stone walls on both sides of the valley. Although it was a long time ago, it was obvious that it was man-made. Following Heli Li, Yang Kai walked forward. Along the way, a series of engravings began to appear on the stone walls. Most of the engravings were of a man and a woman appearing in various places. Occasionally, there were also engravings of the man refining artifacts. As they walked deeper, another man suddenly appeared in the portrait on the stone wall. Then, more scenes of refining weapons appeared in the portrait as well. Looking at them together, it seemed as though they were refining a sword. As the two walked to the end of the valley, the engravings on the stone wall became more complicated. The man refining artifacts was holding a sword and laughing wildly at the sky. The sword in his hand radiated light as if he had refined some sort of incredible treasure. The man who appeared later seemed to be clasping his hands in congratulations. At this time, the portrait first showed two men drinking and chatting merrily. Then there was a sudden twist. While the latter was admiring the sword, he suddenly attacked and struck the man who was refining the weapon to the ground. The attacker took the sword and was about to escape, but he suddenly ran into the woman from before. The two of them immediately fought, but the man was no match for the woman. The sword that he had snatched was taken back by the woman, and he fled. The woman chased after him, but it seemed that she had lost him. The final scene was of the woman standing in the air above the boundless sea, her expression one of inconsolable pain. She had thrown the sword into the vast sea. At this point, the contents of the painting were finished. But at the end, there was an engraving of a sword. Next to the engraving of the sword were two large words, Blue Serenity. This kind of ancient melodramatic story was nothing more than someone going back on their word and killing their friends to steal their treasures. Yu Qianqiu had no interest in it, and he did not have that much sympathy to sympathize with the ancient people. He and Heli walked to the end of the valley. It turned out that there was a cave at the end of the valley. A stone stele had been erected next to the cave. On the stele were the words, "In the dim twilight, the cries of artifacts in the valley. Inextinguishable and inextinguishable, the raging flame is named blue." Yu Qianqiu's eyebrows rose. The reason this valley was called Twilight Valley was probably because of the first two words of the stele. Put together, it was called Twilight Valley. As for the last two words, they were definitely talking about blue flames. The meaning was not difficult to understand. He glanced at the words left behind, but this casual glance immediately caused Yu Qianqiu to freeze, his mouth wide open. This was none other than the three words, "No better than artifact." Damn! No better than artifact? Divine craftsmen no better than artifact? This was the place where divine craftsmen no better than artifact forged artifacts? Damn! If the artificer was a divine craftsman, then could the woman on the mural be Little Snow? Yu Qianqiu shook his head in disbelief. Heli noticed his strange state and curiously asked, "Brother Yu, what's wrong?" "Wait." Yu Qianqiu waved his hand. Without another word, he turned around and walked back. He couldn't stop muttering to himself. Damn, no better than artifact was publicly recognized as the #1 artificer in ancient times, which was why he was crowned with the title of divine craftsman. A treasure that could make a divine craftsman so excited couldn't be an ordinary treasure. It would be a pity if he didn't appreciate it. He once more hurried to the blue nether sword carved on the stone wall and got closer to examine it. The more he looked, the stranger Yu Qianqiu's expression became. The sword on this painting was abnormally familiar. The shape of the artifact and the carvings on the blade were exactly the same as the blue nether sword he had obtained from killing Lu Chongqing. Damn! Don't scare Laozi. Laozi is very timid. Yu Qianqiu's little heart was beating rapidly. He muttered to himself again. Other than the appearance, why did the name of the sword only differ by one word? Could it be a sister sword? It shouldn't be. The painting showed that only one sword was forged. Could it be that the similarity was purely a coincidence? It was very possible. How could a treasure that could make a divine craftsman ecstatic be an ordinary treasure? If it really was such a treasure, Lu Chongqing wouldn't have died so easily. It would probably have taken more effort. Heli also walked back. Seeing him staring at the sword on the mural, he couldn't help but laugh. "Brother Yu, are you looking at the painting of the blue nether sword? This is the last masterpiece of a divine craftsman. Legend has it that this sword has already broken through the category of top spiritual artifacts, and can be ranked as an immortal artifact. It's a pity that after this sword was forged, the divine craftsman was killed by his close friend who stole the treasure. Brother Yu has just seen the mural, so you should already know a thing or two about the process." Immortal artifact? How is that possible? Yu Qianqiu expressed his doubt. His eyebrows twitched unconsciously. He pointed to the painting in front of him and asked, "Since it is an immortal artifact, then why couldn't the man who stole the sword defeat Xueqi with an immortal artifact?" Master learned from the previous torture envoy that the blue nether sword shone too brightly after it was forged. In order to avoid trouble, the divine craftsman placed a restriction on the sword, limiting it to the category of a top-grade magic artifact to cover up the dazzling light of the blue nether sword. With the skills of a divine craftsman, the restriction he placed is not something an ordinary person can undo. This might be the reason why that man couldn't defeat Xueqi even with the sword. Heli explained. Restriction? Limiting it to the category of a top-grade magic artifact? Yu Qianqiu's heart suddenly shrank. Wasn't the blue nether sword in his hand a top-grade magic artifact? Why did it match another one? Could it be that he really made an immortal artifact? This is already an ancient matter. It's hard to distinguish whether it's true or not. It's just a legend. Why does brother you care about this? Don't you want to see the blue fire? Heli laughed. Yu Qianqiu waved his hand and said, No. It's just that the divine craftsman's name is too famous. I didn't expect to see some ancient ruins here. I'm a little entranced. Actually, in comparison, the blue fire is naturally more attractive to me. After all, it's something from the real world. After the explanation, the two of them laughed and chatted as they walked. When they passed by the stone tablet at the entrance of the cave, Yu Qianqiu couldn't help but take a few more glances. Chapter 276. The cave was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers. As soon as they entered, there was a chilly feeling. Yu Qianqiu felt that it was a little strange. Under normal circumstances, fluorites were mostly used in places like this for illumination. Why were they not used here, and had to be groped in the dark? Also, in a cave with earth fire, as soon as one entered, one would be able to feel the rising temperature. But here, it was chilly, which was a little abnormal. Could it be that this birdman was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? Yu Qianqiu immediately became 120% vigilant. If he felt that something was wrong, he would escape. Unable to see the road, Healy led the way with the sound of walking in front. At the same time, he released his divine sense to explore the road. The terrain kept tilting downwards. Healy sensed his divine sense but didn't say anything. After a while, his divine sense found a turn in front. After the two turned in, a misty green light appeared in front of them. The outline of the cave could already be seen. At the end of the path, there was another turn. Turning again, the view in front of him suddenly became bright. About 10 meters ahead, there was a green light screen with a radius of a few meters surging like water ripples. The green light screen was beautiful, but it also seemed a little strange. Healy pointed to the front and said, "Inside is the green fire. The temperature is extremely high. With your cultivation, you have to be prepared to use good luck to resist. But I don't feel any heat. What's going on?" Yu Qianqiu was puzzled. "Do you see that light screen? That is the Divine Craftsman Senior's formation. It can prevent the heat from leaking out. The green fire inside is protected by a light screen. That's why you can't feel the heat." Healy explained. TSK. There's also a formation that can insulate the temperature. It seems that the temperature of the azure flame is extraordinarily high. Otherwise, there would be no need to spend so much effort. Yu Qianqiu nodded, a trace of delight in his eyes as he tried to see what was behind the light screen. To prevent the heat from leaking out, the main reason is to prevent too many people from knowing that there is a green fire here. The big formation outside the valley is also for this reason. Healy pointed to the road and said, "The entrance to the cave was deliberately dug so winding. It was to prevent the green fire from leaking out and attracting attention." Yu Qianqiu nodded his head in understanding and said, "There's a hidden danger in the formation outside. I'm sure this formation doesn't only have the ability to insulate heat. If you don't know the trick, it's easy to get in but hard to get out. In the end, you'll be roasted to death by the green fire. I don't think anyone in the world can stay near the green fire forever. This array relies on the energy of the green flame to maintain its operation. Once the green flame is extinguished, the array will cease to exist." At this point, Cranley smiled as he walked. "Didn't you want to see it? You can go in now." There was a ripple on the light screen, and he walked into the light screen effortlessly. Yu Qianqiu clicked his tongue in wonder. He followed carefully and didn't feel any resistance. It was as if a breeze was blowing on his face. He was already inside. As soon as he entered, although Yu Qianqiu had already circulated his energy in preparation, he was still shocked. The temperature was so high that he almost suffocated on the spot. Even though he circulated his Zhan Yuan to the limit, it was still a little hard to endure. This was something he had never encountered since he started cultivating the fire technique. Normally, he wouldn't be afraid of any fire, but he still couldn't bear the temperature of the green fire. He secretly circulated the fire technique. After a while, he finally withstood the cruel high temperature. He heaved a sigh of relief. He knew that the fire technique could absorb ordinary fire like the earth fire, but he couldn't be sure that it would be effective on the green fire. Now that he had tested it, the doubts in his heart were dispelled. Only then did he have the mood to look around. This was a huge hemispherical space, surrounded by a light curtain. The ground was very flat, about 400 to 500 meters in circumference. In the middle, there was a pit that was about 10 meters wide. A ball of green flame rose from the pit with a hua-hua sound. It was beautiful, beautiful, lonely, and full of passion. The green light illuminated the entire underground space. Everywhere was the same green color. Without a doubt, this was the legendary green fire. Yu Qianqiu was shocked once again. The green fire in the pit was at least 200 meters away from where he was standing. Just the spreading temperature was probably higher than the flames in his body. If he could extract the fire element and use it with the fire technique, then it would be even more terrifying. After the shock, his heart was filled with joy. His gaze fell on the two of them. Whether it was the color of their hair, skin, or clothes, they were all illuminated by the light of the fire and turned green. Looking at Healy's face, he saw that the other person's expression flashed with a trace of surprise. When Healy looked at him, it quickly disappeared. Yu Qianqiu was sensitive enough to capture it. He immediately felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't figure out what the problem was. Brother Yu is really hiding his strength. With a core formation stage cultivation, you can actually withstand the high temperature of the green fire. Although I can't see through Brother Yu's cultivation, I'm afraid Brother Yu isn't just a core formation stage cultivator. Healy asked with a smile. Yu Qianqiu's pupils fiercely shrank. He finally understood what was wrong. His heart skipped a beat. This guy clearly knew that a core formation stage cultivator wouldn't be able to withstand the fire, but he didn't tell me. Instead, he brought me here. What was he trying to do? He pretended that he didn't notice anything and smiled bitterly. Brother He, you really think too highly of me. The power of this green fire isn't just for show. I've already revolved my true essence to the limit. I wanted to go closer to take a look, but I really don't have the cultivation to do so. AI. It's enough to look at it from afar. Forget it, Brother He. Let's hurry back. If I stay here any longer, I'm afraid I'll lose my life. He turned around and was about to leave. He secretly held a small silver ball in his palm. Inside the ball was a small drop of his own blood. He just needed to wait outside and find an opportunity to leave the silver ball in the middle of the cave. The next time he came here, it would be easy. Who would have thought that the light screen, which was so easy for him to enter, would produce a rebounding force the moment his body touched it, forcing him to take a few steps back. Yu Qianqiu turned his head and asked in surprise, "What's going on?" "Brother Yu, have you forgotten what I told you at the beginning? If you want to enter and exit this array that protects the green fire, but don't know the trick, it's easy to enter but hard to leave. In the end, you'll be burned to death by the green fire." Healy shook his head and sighed. Yu Qianqiu slapped his forehead with his palm. "Look at my memory. I forgot what I just said. AI. Brother He, quickly take me out. If I stay here any longer, I'll really be burned to death by this green fire." The smile on Healy's face suddenly became sinister under the illumination of the green fire. He laughed sinisterly. "Didn't you spend so much effort to trick me to bring you to see the green fire? Since you're here, then stay and see to your heart's content." With that said, he struck a spell towards the light screen. His figure quickly passed through and flashed out. Although Yu Qianqiu's cultivation and speed were not as good as Healy's, his reaction was not slow either. As soon as Healy moved, Yu Qianqiu immediately followed him. But in the end, he was still a little too slow. Once Healy passed through the light screen, He tried to follow him. But he was immediately pushed back by a huge rebounding force. Then, Li's complacent laughter came from outside. Yu Qianqiu, I forgot to tell you. Don't underestimate this light screen. The greater the force, the greater the rebounding force. Even if a deity transformation expert went in, without the help of a good spirit treasure, it would be hard for him to come out. Haha. It turned out that this array was not soundproof. Yu Qianqiu looked around leisurely. But he said in an extremely nervous tone. Brother He, don't joke around. If you continue, someone will die. Do I look like I'm joking to you? Li laughed sinisterly. Yu Qianqiu, don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for coming to the demon domain. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for catching that old fart's eye. Blame yourself for playing petty tricks and treating others as fools. You insisted on seeing the green fire. If not for that, I wouldn't have dared to make a move on you. Haha. Ah. Yu Qianqiu's expression twitched. So, in the end, he was fooled by the other party. Thinking about the other party's words, his eyes narrowed. Old fart? Li, the old fart you're talking about is by Changchun? Chapter 277. That's right, it's him. Li said this through gritted teeth. One of them was in the formation, the other was outside, separated by a screen of light. They couldn't see each other, only hear each other's voices. Yu Qianqiu crossed his arms and pinched his chin with the other. He said strangely, Huh. You sound like you're not satisfied with him. Isn't he your master? Why? What did he do to you? Not before, but now that you're here, it's very possible. Li snorted. I don't know what you're talking about. Yu Qianqiu said, Tell me what's going on. Did I offend you? I told you, you shouldn't have come to Demon Ghost region. Li's face was full of anger. I've endured for so many years, and now that the old fart is leaving, this Demon Ghost region should be mine. I'm the most qualified person to be the next torture envoy. And you, why did the old fart treat you differently? Ever since you came to Obedient Island, no outsider has been allowed to stay for no reason. Other than the old fart's friends, you're the first exception. Hearing Li's somewhat crazy words, Yu Qianqiu frowned and said, Looks like you're afraid that I'll take your position as torture envoy. You're worrying too much. I'm not interested in this uninhabitable place. Even if you kill me, will the position of torture enforcer be yours? Without the cultivation of soul formation, who can control the entire demon ghost region? You're only in the middle stage of tribulation passing, and I'm even worse. Think about it, let me out. I can pretend that what happened today never happened. Li snickered and said, How is it impossible? It's just that you don't know the reason. Previously, the old fart was worried that he would never return from the Eastern Holy Land, so he entrusted it to his good friend, Mr. Nongzhu. But Mr. Nongzhu said that he was used to being lazy and didn't want to take this responsibility. The old fart said that if you don't accept it, I won't be able to find the right person. If I don't find the right person to guard this demon ghost region, the human world is bound to be in chaos. Mr. Nongzhu came up with an idea and said, You can give it to your disciple. I have just broken through to the middle stage of soul formation so I can live for 800 years. With this time, it will be enough for your disciple to reach the soul formation stage. The old man nodded in agreement. I heard it with my own ears. Do you think I have a chance? Damn it! You heard it with your own ears. What does it have to do with me? Let me out. Yu Qianqiu roared. He felt that he had met a madman. Li's face darkened and said, How is it none of your business? The old thing personally made you stay, and even secretly observed you for a few days. This is simply unprecedented. You're just a junior in the core formation realm. Do you think you're worth his time? I suspect that the old man intends to accept you as his disciple. He wants you to take over the demon domain with the help of Mr. Nongzhu. Do you think you deserve to die? You want me to take over the demon realm? You said that Bai Changchun wants me to be the torturer of the demon domain? How is that possible? Yu Qianqiu was stunned. He didn't know whether he was happy or unhappy, but he was really a bit surprised. But then he broke out in a cold sweat. Damn it! The old man actually secretly observed me for a few days. Luckily, I'm good at enduring. Otherwise, even if I escape, I won't be able to show my face again. I'll have to hide in Utopia for the rest of my life. After having this thought, he didn't agree with Heli's stubborn idea. He smiled bitterly. I say, Heli, think about it. I've only known him for a few days, and you've been master and disciple for so many years. How could he let me take over the demon domain? As long as someone enters the demon domain and causes trouble, as long as they don't go too far, the old thing will show some mercy. As for demons and ghosts, even if they want to go to the human world, as long as he finds out, the old thing won't show any mercy. He will kill them, regardless of whether it's reasonable or not. You've seen what happened to Demon King Ao Li and Ghost King Meng Yen. Heli shook his head in pain. I've seen too many of these things. You don't understand. You and the old thing are humans, and I'm a demon. As long as there's a second option, the old thing won't be completely at ease to let me take over the demon domain. Hearing this, Yu Qianqiu was silent for a moment. He didn't deny that what Heli said made sense. In his previous life, he had heard of the saying, "Those who are not of my race must have different intentions." If it were him, he wouldn't necessarily let a demon take over the demon domain, which might be related to the survival of the human race. That was too risky. After thinking about it, Yu Qianqiu comforted him. You worry too much. My cultivation is too shallow. Even if you let me take over the demon domain, I won't be able to control it unless Mr. Nongzhu stays in the demon domain forever. You said that Mr. Nongzhu doesn't want to be bound, so Bai Changchun won't let me be the torture envoy. You don't understand. The old thing and Mr. Nongzhu are both humans. With their cultivation experience, it's easier for them to make a human at the core formation stage reach the soul formation stage than for me, a demon at the tribulation stage, to reach the soul formation stage. As for controlling the demon domain, it's not difficult at all. The reason why the demon domain is shrouded in gloomy clouds all year round is because of the protection of a set of spirit treasures. As long as there's a fierce fight in the demon domain, the spirit treasures in the old thing's hands will immediately show up. So, no matter who is in charge of the demon domain, as long as they have that set of spirit treasures and Mr. Nongzhu's help, controlling it is not a problem at all. Speaking of this, Healy sneered and said, Now you know why I didn't kill you outside. It's too easy for me to kill you with my cultivation, but as soon as I fight with you, the spirit treasures in the old thing's hands will immediately know, so it's best to lure you here and trap you until you die. No one will know. Damn it! Am I as easy to kill as you say? Yu Qianqiu laughed and said, Aren't you afraid that I'll leave some traces before I die here? Bai Changchun can't find me, so maybe he will come here to take a look. Whatever traces you want to leave, just leave them. I will erase them completely before the old thing comes back. Healy sneered and said, By the way, I forgot to tell you that the light curtain can't leave any traces. As for the ground, it has withstood the roasting of the blue fire for countless years and is already incredibly hard. It's difficult for me to leave any traces with my cultivation. I don't know what skills you have. Also, this blue fire will erupt once a month. At that time, the space inside will be filled with blue fire. It seems that the day of eruption will be in 2 days. If you want to leave anything behind, you'd better hurry up. Since he had already said it to this point, it was useless to say anything else. There was also no need to beg him for anything. In any case, this place couldn't trap him. Originally, he thought that it was Bai Changchun's idea to trap him here, so he was a little worried. Now that he understood, he was relieved. As long as it wasn't Bai Changchun's idea, everything would be easy. Yu Qianqiu frowned and said, As expected, you already had a plan. However, there is one thing I don't understand. You must have revealed the 3-taste true flame to me on purpose. However, I don't understand how you knew that I would come to see this blue flame. Ha ha! Healy laughed insolently and said, I heard the old thing say that he felt the aura of raging flames on your body, but he couldn't find anything. Even he himself suspected that he was mistaken. Although I don't know what's going on, I'm quite confident in his cultivation. Since he felt something was wrong, it means that you must have something to do with fire. Therefore, I revealed the 3-taste true fire to test you. I didn't expect you to be so passionate about the blue fire. You even thought that I was a fool, using a secret ancestral recipe to fool you. Only you could think of such a thing, haha. Since there's such a good opportunity to get rid of you without the old thing finding out, I'm naturally happy to push the boat with the current to fulfill your wish. Damn it! Don't be too proud. You're just a feathered beast, and you want to take control of the demon domain? You're dreaming. Just wait for me to come out, I'll slowly deal with you. Yu Qianqiu angrily cursed. He felt very uncomfortable playing with himself. Feathered beast? Haha. Good scolding. I'm not a human. Wait until I take control of the demon domain. I'll let you humans know the power of a feathered beast. Healy jokingly said. You can slowly cuss inside. I hope you can resist for a few more days. Don't let me come again and not even ashes can be found. Humph. I won't keep you company. Chapter 278. Hey, don't go. Yu Qianqiu shouted a few times, but the other party did not reply. He cocked his head to the side and listened. He didn't know if they had really left. Then, he released all of his flying swords and bombarded the light barrier at the entrance of the cave. However, just as the other party had said, the more force he used, the stronger the rebound. After a series of pu sounds that sounded like he was poking cotton wool, the flying swords were all bounced off the ground. He let out a long sigh and retrieved all of his flying swords. At this time, Crane Li's laughter sounded again from outside. Yu Qianqiu, just give up. Haha. The laughter slowly faded away. Yu Qianqiu laughed coldly. This birdman was indeed outside. He was too lazy to try anything else. He turned around and looked around. He walked to a crack on the ground and looked at the silver ball in his hand. He frowned and kept the silver ball. He then took out a small porcelain bottle and stuffed it into the crack. It was fine in the cave outside. But here, the silver ball could not withstand the high temperature. Instead, porcelain was the most resistant. After doing this, it would not be a problem if he wanted to come in again. He circled around the area of several hundred meters with interest, sizing up his surroundings. Finally, his gaze landed on the green fire that had been rising from the center for a long time. The excitement in his eyes was difficult to conceal as he slowly stepped towards the center. If Healy was present at this moment, he would definitely be dumbstruck, because he would be witnessing an inconceivable event. Yu Qianqiu stood at the edge of the pit. He looked up at the green flame that was dozens of meters high. He opened his arms as if he wanted to hug it. His expression was serene and his eyes were closed. It was as if he was returning to his mother's embrace. Yu Qianqiu opened his eyes and looked down at the root of the flame. When he was using the fire technique to absorb it, he felt a restless emotion from below. It was as if someone was saying, "Don't touch me. Get lost." Did I hear wrongly? Yu Qianqiu looked at the hole and muttered to himself. He could not figure it out. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He then used the fire technique again. This time, he was not as focused as before. Instead, he paid attention to what was below. Sure enough, just as he was about to absorb what he needed from the green flame, a suction force from the ground pulled the item back. At the same time, a violent and strongly repulsive emotion roared in his sea of consciousness. This time, Yu Qianqiu felt it very clearly. He immediately stopped absorbing and stared at the hole in the ground with a bewildered expression. He frowned and said, "Damn it! What's down there? This is strange. Could there be something alive down there? Is there anyone down there?" Yu Qianqiu shouted a few times but no one answered. He tilted his head and pinched his chin. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. In for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound. Facing the green flames, he opened his arms and quickly circulated the fire spell. A faintly discernible green mist peeled off from the flames and floated towards him. This was the fire element he needed. Who knew that when it got close to him and was about to be absorbed into his body, the suction appeared again. The green mist-like fire element began to fall back. Yu Qianqiu's eyes widened and he shouted, "Damn you!" The fire technique in his body sped up again and the green mist floated back towards him. Immediately after, the suction from below also gradually increased. Yu Qianqiu used brute force and didn't give way. As a result, the green mist was like a tug of war between him and the green flames. It was like a tug of war. You pull, I pull, but there was no clear winner. After going back and forth for a long time, Yu Qianqiu was so anxious that he was drenched in sweat. It was not easy to get here. How could he not get to see it but not eat it? Fight! The true essence in his body was raised to the limit according to the orbit of the stars. It was a limit that Yu Qianqiu had never reached. His tiny meridians were like the torrents of the Yellow River in his previous life, roaring and surging. He slowly moved over and finally pulled the green mist close to him. However, the mysterious suction seemed to be going all out. Immediately, the green mist was in a deadlock in front of Yu Qianqiu. It should be said that it was right in front of him. Unfortunately, at this moment, Yu Qianqiu was suffering from the extreme pain caused by the rapid circulation of true essence in his body. His entire body stood at the edge of the pit, shivering, and his expression was distorted to an unspeakable degree. He was so close, yet he couldn't touch him. At this moment, Yu Qianqiu's eyes widened as if his eyeballs were about to pop out. One of his hands struggled to touch the green mist in front of him. The true essence in his body, which was originally circulating smoothly in his meridians, mercilessly collided with the suddenly twisted meridians in his hand. An immense pain spread throughout his body. Yu Qianqiu bit his lips. His face was red and swollen. His nostrils and the corners of his eyes began to bleed. When his finger touched the green mist in front of him, the green mist rippled. Like a reservoir that had found a vent, it quickly spread along his palm and was quickly absorbed into Yu Qianqiu's body. Meanwhile, Yu Qianqiu's sea of consciousness seemed to hear a painful howl. He immediately felt the suction force from the green flames lessen significantly. Following that, a majestic green fog swept over and enveloped his entire body. As the pressure decreased, Yu Qianqiu, who had absorbed the green fire element, felt a wave of comfort. However, he did not dare to relax. He had to absorb as much as he wanted. After the fire element entered his body through his pores, it immediately cut off the connection with the external suction force. It became a part of Yu Qianqiu's body. It continued to gather in his dantian. Impatiently, it rushed toward the core and was absorbed by the core. The painful struggle in his mind disappeared. The fire element in the green flames was also absorbed by him. When the core could no longer absorb, the fire element began to spread through his meridians. In Yu Qianqiu's words, it was storing the fire element in every cell of his body. When he needed it, he could take it out at any time. It was like charging a battery. Charging it once could take a long time. After a long time, Yu Qianqiu stopped circulating the fire art in his body. To be more precise, he was full. The moment he stopped, an azure flame flashed in each of his eyes before fading away. Damn it! What the hell is this? Yu Qianqiu felt that something was wrong with his eyes and nose. He raised his hand to wipe it. He was bleeding. He could not help but curse. However, this trip was not in vain. He did not bleed in vain. He finally got what he wanted. He pinched his chin and squinted at the hole in the ground. After a while, he seemed to have made a decision and suddenly jumped into the raging green flames. Using the buoyancy of his upward momentum, he slowly descended to the hole dozens of meters below. He had to see what was so strange down there. The closer he got to the hole, the greater the buoyancy he felt. Once he reached the hole, he immediately grabbed onto the rock wall, resisting the buoyancy, and slowly climbed down. Everywhere he looked, there was a misty green flame, and he couldn't see anything. After climbing for about 10 meters, his hand reached down. He did not grab the rock wall. He opened his hand and felt around. It was empty. Chapter 279. Did I reach the bottom? This was the first thought that came to Yu Qianqiu's mind. His two hands grabbed the bottom, and his body jumped down, but he immediately felt his body falling down. Needless to say, the long sword was unsheathed, and he adjusted his body and leisurely stepped on the sword. After stabilizing himself, Yu Qianqiu opened his mouth wide, and he was completely stunned. This was an indescribably huge underground space. Yu Qianqiu was in mid-air between a natural moat canyon, and looking around, he seemed so small. The whole huge canyon was bright red, and everywhere was steaming hot. Below was a river, to be exact. It was a river formed by underground volcanic magma. In the distance, there was a volcanic waterfall, and the bright red liquid stirred up sparks from the high drop, which was very spectacular. Yu Qianqiu came back to his senses and exhaled. He didn't expect that there was such a big underground space hidden below. He turned his direction, and the sword flew directly towards the direction where the magma flowed. After flying for nearly 10,000 meters, he reached the end, and saw that the magma flowed away from the underground, and he didn't know where it finally flowed to. Seeing that there was no way forward, he turned around and flew back, and returned to the place where he landed. The green flame was like a pillar, rising directly from the bright red magma below. It looked exceptionally beautiful in this underground world where the red light was shining. Yu Qianqiu fell directly along the blue flame, and when he floated a few meters above the river of magma, he was shocked by the thing in front of him. 9 huge blue lotus flowers grew on the surging magma, and the flower discs were 3 meters square, and the branches that grew out of the river were also 5 or 6 meters long. The blue flame was coming from these 9 lotus flowers, and it formed a blue flame pillar that rushed up and burned endlessly. What shocked Yu Qianqiu the most was that 8 of the 9 petaled azure lotuses were still in bud. Only one of them was in full bloom, and it was covered with a layer of rainbow-colored light. Among the layers of petals, there was a verdant green lotus head. On top of it, there was actually a naked white tender child sleeping soundly. Moreover, it was the kind with 4 legs spread out. Damn. I didn't see it wrong, right? There was actually a child sleeping here? Could it be that this world also has a lotus incarnation of Naja? What the hell? Yu Qianqiu rubbed his eyes in disbelief. He looked at the surging lava below and then at the sleeping child in the lotus. He did not see wrongly. It was indeed a child sleeping soundly, as if he was very, very tired. Yu Qianqiu stood on the lotus with a strange expression. The lotus was quite sturdy. It didn't even shake when he stood on it. Damn it! It was definitely a demon. Ordinary children would have been roasted to the point where not even dregs were left. How could they sleep here? Yu Qianqiu stretched out a leg and kicked the sleeping child, urging, "Fatty, wake up, your father is here. Hey, get up, your old man is coming. If you don't get up, I'll spank you." He shouted a few times, but it was no use. After being kicked a few times by him, the child struggled to open his sleepy eyes. When the child saw that there was a person standing in front of him, he let out a loud cry and was about to jump into the lava outside the lotus. "You want to run? Don't even think about it." Yu Qianqiu quickly grabbed the child by the waist and raised his hand to slap the white little buttocks a few times. He cackled and said, "Little brat, still want to run? Tell me honestly, what kind of demon are you?" "Grandpa, save me. Someone wants to catch me." The naked child cried out after being slapped. His voice was so loud that it echoed throughout the whole valley. "Grandpa? Could there be an old demon?" Yu Qianqiu immediately scanned his surroundings with a guilty conscience. Who would have thought that the old demoness didn't see him, but a sharp pain came from his arm. He loosened his grip, and the child's foot kicked off his body. He jumped off the green lotus and dived into the surging lava. Yu Qianqiu stepped to the side of the lotus and saw a head popping out of the lava and making a face at him. He immediately shouted in anger, "You little demon, you actually dare to bite me." After saying that, he unsheathed his flying sword and slashed down. The child was as agile as a fish in the lava. He disappeared in a flash and completely sank into the lava. Yu Qianqiu's flying swords danced around him as he looked around the river. He searched for a long time but didn't see the little kid's head again. He was actually fooled by a little demon, which made him unbearably angry. His gaze fell on the lotus under his feet and he said fiercely, "I told you to sleep." The flying swords shot out in unison, and there was a series of clanging sounds. However, the green lotus under his feet was as hard as something and wasn't damaged at all. After a while, he completely lost his temper. To be honest, other than having a lot of flying swords, he also set fire. However, setting fire was obviously useless against the green lotus. It could produce one of the 3 true fires, green fire, so how could it be afraid of fire? Damn it! Not only did he come here for nothing, but he was also bitten by the little demon. It was a big loss. Yu Qianqiu looked around and estimated that the child wouldn't come out for the time being. Looking at the 8 budding green lotuses around him, and then looking at the green lotus under his feet, he revealed a suspicious expression. Could it be that there was a child in each of the 8 lotus flowers that hadn't bloomed? Damn it, the demon domain was really a place where demons were born. Even the lotus flowers underground could become spirits. Just as he was pinching his chin and thinking, he suddenly felt that something was staring at him from behind. He turned his head and immediately felt scared. In the bright red lava river, a huge red body stretched out of the river. Just this part alone was over 10 meters tall, and there was a huge head on top of it. It had 2 ferocious horns, a forehead that bulged like armor, a sharp nose, fangs that could not be covered even when closed, and 2 catfish whiskers that were as thick as thighs. Its body was covered in a layer of bright red armor, especially when it was stared at by the 2 huge lantern-like eyes. It felt as if its soul could not be moved. A majestic and simple aura rushed over, and Xueqi's expression kept twitching. After a long time he stammered and said, "You are a dragon. Dragon, dragon." He couldn't be more familiar with the appearance of this monster. He had seen it in various scenes in his previous life. Although it was slightly different from the thing in front of him and lacked a sense of realism, it wasn't far from it. It was the image of the dragon in his previous life. Immediately, Xueqi was scared out of his wits. How could there be a dragon hiding here? This was 2F** King exaggerated. Grandpa. He was the one who wanted to capture me just now. A naked child sitting on the dragon's head pointed at Xueqi and said angrily. It was the little fellow who had escaped just now. There's actually someone who can stand in the green fire unscathed? A simple and ancient voice came out of the dragon's mouth. Its 2 big eyes stared at the slightly dazed Xueqi, revealing a hint of confusion. You're his grandpa? Xueqi only dared to speak after a long time. He pointed a trembling finger at the little child sitting on the dragon's head. Yes, the old voice replied. Then, a section of its body rose out of the magma, revealing a large, strong and ferocious set of sharp claws. However, the claws were tied with a large golden chain. The dragon asked, "Human, why do you want to capture him?" Oh my god! Xueqi thought that the dragon was going to attack. He was so scared that he immediately let out a strange cry and disappeared in an instant. The dragon's thick nostrils spewed out 2 streams of flames. Its whole body floated above the lava. Its body that was covered in red armor twisted and turned. It was almost 100 meters long. However, the claws on its 4 limbs were tied up by the shining golden chains. The 4 huge chains went deep into the lava. The dragon's head turned to look around. The old voice said in a very strange tone, "Huh?" Chapter 280. In the ethereal palace of Utopia, Xueqi suddenly appeared and sat on the clean floor. He wiped the sweat off his forehead, and his heart was pounding. He had heard that there were dragons in this world, but from the various ancient books, the so-called dragons were all like the Western dragons in his previous life. They looked like dinosaurs and had 2 bat wings on their backs. In just a moment, a real giant dragon, a red dragon, the legendary supreme being that the Chinese people had worshipped for thousands of years in his previous life, suddenly raised its head in front of him. It was full of vicissitudes, simple, and all kinds of majestic aura gathered on its body. It stared at him with its eyes that were like big lanterns, questioning him. The shock that came from the bottom of his heart was something that he couldn't have even when he heard or saw by Changchun at the soul formation final stage. It would be weird if he wasn't scared. Leader. When the maids of Ethereal Palace saw Xueqi in such a sorry state, they all exclaimed, but they didn't wake Xueqi up. Immediately, Bai Suzhen and the others rushed over after hearing the news. Yu Changgue and his wife looked at each other. Little Wucho's mouth was wide open. In their hearts, Xueqi was omnipotent. He was the #1 person in this place. Looking at him sitting on the ground, he was clearly scared out of his wits. Chu Ping'er's appearance was somewhat haggard. It was obvious that she was still overly depressed because of what had happened to her master. She was originally a little resentful towards Xueqi, but when she saw him like this, her heart ached again. Bai Suzhen frowned. She walked over, squatted down, and shook him. "What's wrong with you?" Xueqi raised his head and looked around blankly. Seeing familiar faces, he shook his head and let out a long breath. He lay down on the ground and comforted himself with lingering fear. I'm back. I was scared to death. I was almost scared to death. Choa, what's wrong with you?" Xueqi squatted down and asked. Although Yu Changgue was also worried, he didn't do what the 2 women did. "I'm fine." Xueqi closed his eyes and waved his hand weakly. He took a few deep breaths, and his face returned to its usual relaxed state. His body moved, and he bounced up again. After looking around at everyone, he smiled at Xueqi and said, "Mother, I'm fine. You guys go back and rest. I have something to talk to sister." They naturally knew that the sister Yu Qianqiu mentioned was Bai Suzhen. Apart from him, she was the only person in Utopia who could command everyone. Xue Ernyang looked at her son worriedly. Yu Chonggui walked over and tugged at her, saying, "All right, let's go out for a walk. Our son can solve his own problems by himself. Let's not stay here and cause more trouble." Having said that, he grabbed his youngest son and walked out of the majestic misty palace. The group of maidservants bowed in greeting and retreated. Chu Ping looked at Yu Qianqiu, and her gaze paused on Bai Suzhen. She bit her lips and turned around silently. Yu Qianqiu noticed her haggard face and sighed, calling out, "Ping-er." Chu Ping stopped and turned her back to him. Yu Qianqiu walked over and turned to face her. He looked at her sincerely and sighed, saying, "The dead can't be resurrected. In this world, other than your master, don't you think there are more important people who need you to live well? Am I really not comparable to your master in your heart?" Chu Pinger's body trembled, and she raised her head, saying, "It's not what you think, it's just that. Enough." Yu Qianqiu's palm gently covered her red lips, stopping her from continuing. He smiled and said, "There's no need to say any more, I understand. Ping, I've encountered many things on this trip. I almost lost my life. It's great to see you again. I really missed you." As he said that, he gently pulled Chu Pinger into his arms. Chu Ping had mixed feelings in his arms. She suddenly started sobbing, and her tears flowed out continuously. She choked and said, "I thought you hated me and didn't want to talk to me anymore. One day, you would chase me out of this place. I don't have a master, and I don't have you. What should I do in the future?" "Woo-woo." Yu Qianqiu stroked her hair and murmured in her ear, "How can that be? You are my dream, my first dream since I came to this world. I'm willing to cherish you for the rest of my life. You have to live well and let me cherish you for the rest of my life." Chu Ping-er's hanging hand immediately hugged his waist. She hid in his arms and nodded repeatedly. Bai Suzhen fiercely glared at Yu Qianqiu. The latter winked at her and said, "Sister, let's go to the back cliff." After saying that, he carried Chu Pinger and disappeared. The back cliff was windy and sunny. Looking at the vast land around them made people sigh with emotion. Yu Qianqiu pushed away Chu Pinger, who was hiding in his arms and crying. Chu Pinger saw Bai Suzhen's smiling face and felt a little embarrassed. "You're crying so ugly. All right, wipe your face. I have something important to tell you." Yu Qianqiu smiled and pinched Chu Pinger's nose, then said to Bai Suzhen, "Sister, arrange something for her to take responsibility. This woman has nothing better to do. It's easy for her imagination to run wild." After Bai Suzhen nodded with a smile, Yu Qianqiu turned back and said, "Ping-er, from now on, you have to seize the time and work hard to improve your cultivation. Use whatever you want. Your husband is very rich. I'm not afraid of you squandering it. In short, you have to improve your cultivation. It's time to worry about me." Then, he didn't avoid Chu Ping-er and told them what he had encountered this time in front of the two women. Chu Ping-er was immediately stunned. It turned out that her man had done such unimaginable things. It could be said that everything he did was dangerous. It was all things she had never heard of before. Only then did she realize that she was really a frog in a well in Ongkwangtsung. She had no idea what it meant for her to enjoy the same right to know as Bai Suzhen did. When Yu Qianqiu told her about the contents of Twilight Valley's murals, Bai Suzhen muttered, "The old ancestor returned to the Arctic fox race. So the divine craftsman was already dead." "Sister, have you ever seen or heard of a dragon like this?" Yu Qianqiu asked after recounting his final encounter. Bai Suzhen covered her mouth and cried out in alarm. "Could it be that you saw a legendary divine dragon? How is that possible? Do divine dragons really exist in this world?" Seeing the confusion on Yu Qianqiu and Chu Pinger's faces, she explained, "My fox race has a legend. Even more ancient than ancient times, immortals from the immortal realm would frequently descend upon the human world, and divine beasts from the immortal realm would also frequently appear in the human world. In the legends, the most powerful divine beasts were the divine dragons that you described. They had a long body, 4 claws, and a fierce head. They came in many colors, and the red you mentioned was one of them. It was said that not even immortals were a match for divine dragons. This legend is so ancient that it's almost been forgotten. I didn't think that you would actually see a legendary divine dragon. It's simply inconceivable. But what I don't understand is that if the divine dragon you described really was a divine dragon, why did it hide underground? Sister, now that you mention it, I remember. Yu Qianqiu frowned. That red divine dragon's claw seemed to have been locked down by a golden chain. Locked down? Bai Suzhen shook her head. How could a real divine dragon be locked down by someone? And who would have the ability to lock down a divine dragon? The beautiful Chu Ping, opened her mouth slightly. She would look in whichever direction she was talking about, just like a little idiot. Just the Demon King and Ghost King of the Demon Realm were enough for her to digest for a while. Now, there was the legendary demigod stage. It seemed like there were many more in this world. Then, even the legendary divine craftsman appeared. Then, there was a divine dragon that she had never heard of before. There was also that thing called the Three True Fire. She was completely bewildered and confused. In short, to her, she could only listen and not interrupt. With her limited knowledge, she couldn't interrupt either. However, the melancholy that filled her heart earlier disappeared without a trace. Her mind was filled with other things. It was meaningless to continue discussing the topic of the divine dragon. She decided that she would go there again if there was a chance. She would understand it eventually. Yu Qianqiu summoned the green destiny sword and passed it to Bai Suzhen. He said solemnly, "Sister, those who are proficient in refining artifacts are also proficient in formations. Xiao Xue has followed the divine craftsman for many years. If this sword is really the green destiny sword, based on the formations that your Fox clan passed down to Xiao Xue, I should be able to see something. Help me check carefully and see if there are any restrictions in this sword. If there are, can you think of a way to break it?" Chapter 281. Bai Suzhen nodded. She took the green destiny sword and examined it carefully. After a long while, she said with a grave expression, "There is indeed a restriction in the sword. It's a rather brilliant technique, but I don't know if I can remove it. I need some time to try." In that case, this sword might really be the green destiny sword refined by a divine blacksmith? Yu Qianqiu was overjoyed. He then waved his hand and said, "Sis, I'm not in a hurry. You can slowly study it. It's fine as long as you can remove the restriction." "I'll try my best." Bai Suzhen looked at Chu Ping and said, "Sister Ping this sword might cause me to be unable to pay attention to Utopia's matters for this period of time. You have to familiarize yourself with it as soon as possible and help me." Chu Ping replied shyly, "N." That was considered as a yes. Yu Qianqiu looked at Bai Suzhen, who was cooperating with him, and then looked at Chu Ping who was acting like a little girl. He felt very comforted. Now that the rear was stable, he could relax and do whatever he wanted outside. He casually took out a Rui pill that was flashing with rainbow light and handed it to Chu Ping. This is called the Rui pill. It's an extremely precious treasure. Consume it and you won't age. Looking at the beautiful thing in her hand, Chu Ping was pleasantly surprised. It can really make me look young? Women loved beauty and didn't want to grow old. Staying young was something that no woman could resist. Yu Qianqiu smiled and nodded. Chu Ping still believed in him. She turned around with a face full of surprise and eagerly swallowed the pill in her hand. Bai Suzhen looked at Yu Qianqiu in surprise. In her mind, Yu Qianqiu should have given the pill to Chu Ping a long time ago. Why did he only give it to her now? She thought about how Yu Qianqiu would always let her know everything first and let her enjoy all the good things first. Although the two of them had never shared a bed before, his affection for her, which surpassed all other women, once again made her heart feel boundless tenderness. A faint smile appeared on Bai Suzhen's face. It was a very gratified smile as she looked into the distance. Yu Qianqiu secretly glanced at her, and the corners of his mouth curled up. He hadn't given Chu Ping the Rui pill because he was waiting for something like this to happen. His thinking was that no matter if it was ancient or modern, he believed that no woman would be able to tolerate their man being shared by other women. However, men naturally wish that there were more beauties around them, and it would be better if all of them were loyal to him. Was there really such a good thing? The answer was definitely no. But then he thought, what should he do? Therefore, he still had to play the necessary tricks. He understood that what Bai Suzhen wanted was very little. She didn't even think about getting anything from him. The only thing he could do was to let her be with him in this life, with no regrets in his heart, and with eternal happiness. This point, he had to give it to her at all costs. Men who didn't have that ability had better give up the idea of hugging on both sides as soon as possible. In a brothel, you could spend some money to hug as many women as you wanted. There were also many mistresses who were willing to sacrifice their bodies for money. Pinger, I will send you to the lake. Yu Qianqiu pointed to the lake in the distance and laughed strangely. Bai Suzhen smiled lightly and turned her head, saying, I will go back and take a look at this sword first. She naturally knew the consequences of taking the Rui pill. After saying that, she disappeared. Why? Chu Pinger asked blankly. Yu Qianqiu coughed and chuckled. You will know in a while. I will keep watch for you. As he spoke, he held her hand and appeared by the lake. It was the place where Chu Pinger was forcefully raped by Yu Qianqiu when she first came to Utopia. Chu Pinger's pretty face blushed, thinking that he was going to do that again. She looked around guiltily, but then her face changed, and her stomach made a gurgling sound, and the pores on her body began to ooze black stains. Hee hee. After consuming the Rui pill, it will eliminate some impurities in the body. Go ahead, I will keep watch for you. Yu Qianqiu smiled awkwardly and turned his back to her. Chu Pinger stomped her feet and hurriedly ran far away while covering her stomach. She probably couldn't hold it in anymore. Not long after, a graceful figure appeared in the lake. She was washing herself. Yu Qianqiu turned around with a chuckle and quickly took off his clothes before wading into the lake to help. In the expanded conference room of the heroes' camp, Yu Qianqiu sat on a chair and looked at the 5 people in front of him. They were Gu Qingyun, Ko Xuehua, Xiao Wanqing, Murong Xian, and Mei Yinhong. Gu Qingyun was already part of the combat team, while the other 4 were under Bai Suzhen. They had all experienced the pain of having their primordial spirits removed. When they saw him, they respectfully greeted him. Leader. The 5 of them no longer dared to joke around with him like they did in the past. They looked at him with complicated expressions. Their former friends and even seniors from his sect had become subordinates in the blink of an eye. After talking for a while, Yu Qianqiu smiled and said, Gu Qingyun, they can hate me, but you can't. In the devil's domain, you once said that you would follow me if you could come back safely. You have to take responsibility for your words. We don't dare. The 5 of them bowed in unison. They were very respectful. Yu Qianqiu raised his eyebrows. It seemed that his ideological work was effective. He crossed his legs and said, Don't think too much. After a long time, you will realize that this place is far better than the Fuxian Island. Gu Qingyun, work hard. You might have unexpected gains in the future. All right, you can go back first. Before the 5 of them left, Xiao Wanqing secretly glanced at Yu Qianqiu. When Yu Qianqiu saw that, he smiled faintly. He knew that this girl had always been interested in him, but he had given her a chance to follow him. She had rejected it. If he forced them to come here, she would no longer have the chance to become his woman. If Xiao Wanqing had agreed when he invited them, it would mean that she had absolute trust in him. For such a beauty with good moral character, Yu Qianqiu didn't mind accepting her. Now it was impossible. He would only congratulate her when she became someone else's woman. This was because they were friends in the past. It was the same for this summon. After a while, Guan Yu brought Zhang Peng and Hong Qi in. After understanding their cultivation progress, Yu Qianqiu sternly urged them to work hard to improve their cultivation. He also requested Guan Yu to supervise them with the strictest attitude. After everyone left, Yu Qianqiu paced back and forth in the spacious conference room. Ever since he returned from the demon domain, his brain hadn't stopped working. In the past, he had set his standards to be stronger than the #1 sect in the world, like supporting Immortal Island. But after coming back and knowing more, his standards had climbed to a higher level. The so-called #1 sect in the world, like supporting Immortal Island, was nothing in the eyes of those spirit-severing cultivators. A spirit-severing cultivator could probably wipe them out. When spirit-severing cultivators looked at supporting Immortal Island, it was no different from supporting Immortal Island looking at mortals in the secular world. They couldn't be bothered to intervene. There was no point in fighting with supporting Immortal Island. But even if he didn't fight, it didn't mean that his subordinates wouldn't fight. They couldn't waste the resources that they had painstakingly obtained. The spokesperson for the secular world had already been decided on the Shi clan. Naturally, He would feel more at ease leaving the spokesperson for the cultivation world to his subordinates. This way, he would be able to let his parents and younger brother return to the secular world to live peacefully. It shouldn't be a problem to ensure the safety of the Yu clan for a few generations. After all, it wasn't a solution to let them stay in Utopia for a long time. They were completely different people from the people in Utopia. One flew in the sky, while the other walked on the ground. They would never be able to integrate. They were different and lonely. The secular world was where they belonged. All he could do was to create a good living environment for them in the secular world. But to ensure that his people could smoothly represent the secular world and the cultivation world, it would depend on how high he could reach. It seemed like He Li's suggestion wasn't bad. With Bai Chongqun and Mr. Nongzhu's cultivation experience, it shouldn't be a problem for them to help him reach the spirit severing stage. Thinking of He Li, Yu Qianqiu chuckled. He still had to return to Shuntian Island before Bai Chongqun returned. Naturally, he would have to rely on Bai Chongqun to decide what was right or wrong. However, he wasn't someone to be trifled with. He Li, are you prepared? Chapter 282. Before returning to Shuntian Island, he had to hurry up and pay attention to some things. When inspecting the military camp, he discovered that nearly 200 members had already become cultivation partners with Bai Suzhen's female team members and lived a comfortable life. With these role models, the hearts of the people in the camp gradually settled down. Everyone had already started to treat Utopia as their home. The only problem was that there were more men than women. If this continued, there would be problems. Thus, Yu Qianqiu gathered all the male team members and held a meeting. He waved his arms and promised everyone that there would definitely be more women coming to Utopia. He told everyone not to be anxious. If it was really impossible, he would lead everyone to loot the Moon sect. Anyway, the Moon sect was full of women. When the time came, everyone would definitely have a woman. These words immediately caused the majority of the team members to cheer. They shouted in unison, "Long live the leader!" After inspecting the troops, Yu Qianqiu went to the place Donghua Su was in charge of. With Donghua Su leading a group of people, the cultivation and planting project had already begun to take shape. Although this group of people were all old qi refinement cultivators, it was considered easy for them to have this cultivation, not to mention that they were still continuously improving. Yu Qianqiu was delighted to discover that the items for planting and breeding could basically meet the needs of Utopia. He did not need to always go out to purchase them. Of course, such results were not only due to Donghua Su's efforts, but also due to the magical effects of the purple chaos. For this, Yu Qianqiu expressed his appreciation to Donghua Su. The latter immediately said that it was what he should do. The stall that Chen Feng was in charge of could already start mass production of spirit pills and Dharma artifacts. It was enough to meet the needs of the army. Currently, alchemy and Dharma artifact were developing in the direction of refinement. However, the supply of raw materials was still a bottleneck. He needed to think of a way to solve it. In short, everything in Utopia was on the right track. Yu Qianqiu was quite satisfied. At the same time, a gratifying change had occurred within his body. Ever since he absorbed the azure flame, the speed at which he condensed his core had increased by quite a bit. The amount of spiritual qi he needed to replenish was also increasing. He believed that it wouldn't be long before he could break through to the late core formation stage. In his joy, he cast his gaze towards the distant horizon and abruptly disappeared from his original spot. He wanted to test how much power he could unleash with the green flame. After the trivial matters in Utopia were over, he went to the National Pillar General's residence. There were dozens more targets with spirit roots in the backyard. Needless to say, Ling Feng and the others must have gotten them and sent them into Utopia with a wave of their hands. Ling Feng and the other two weren't around. Only Shi Shaotian was. Ever since he slaughtered the Imperial Preceptor, Shi Shaotian didn't dare to go out casually. He was always worried about the safety of the women at home. If he stayed at home, he would be able to help if anything happened. After inquiring about the current situation of the general's mansion and seeing that there were no problems, Yu Qianqiu once again dressed up as a servant and leisurely walked out of the general's mansion. His destination was naturally the 10,000 flower house. As soon as he arrived, the 100 charms beauty would know. The beautiful woman wrapped in red gauze was already smiling at the window of the pavilion. When Yu Qianqiu saw her bewitching smile, his head started to hurt. He really wanted to turn around and leave, but he had no choice. In the end, he braced himself and went up to greet her. "Mistress!" The 100 Charms beauty sized him up with a slightly astonished gaze. She felt that there seemed to be something extra about him. It was something that belonged to confidence. Yu Qianqiu also realized that in the past, when he faced cultivators in the tribulation stage, he would always be worried that they would suddenly attack him. Even when he was smiling, he would still be on guard. Even when he faced the 100 Charms beauty, who was in the middle stage of the tribulation stage, he would still be on guard. This was one of the reasons why he didn't dare to teleport to the 10,000 flower house. Now that he faced the 100 Charms beauty again, he was calm. When he looked at her, he suddenly thought that she was only in the tribulation stage. Although his cultivation was far lower than hers, he really didn't regard her as a threat that could kill him at any time. It was the first time that he faced a cultivator in the tribulation stage. He didn't connect his divine sense with the golden bead and was ready to escape at any time. After thinking about it, he had already figured out the reason. This trip to the demon ghost realm could be said to have greatly broadened his horizons. After knowing that there were many top existences in the cultivation world, the tribulation stage was indeed nothing in his eyes. Moreover, after using the power of the blue fire, he was confident that it would not be easy for a master in the tribulation stage to kill him. If he couldn't win, it should not be a big problem for him to escape. Perhaps this was the source of his confidence. The 100 Charms beauty's surprised gaze was replaced by a smile again. It was rare that she didn't come close to him and harass him. Swaying her seductive body, she lay on her side on the recliner. She supported her head with one hand and smiled charmingly. "I received information that you went to the demon ghost realm with the masters of the 4 great families." "Yes. You are really brave to go to the demon ghost realm with just 5 people. Look at you. Did you gain something in the demon ghost realm?" Master's wife is really well informed. You even know such a secret thing. Yu Qianqiu found a chair and sat down. He shook his head and said with a smile, "I didn't gain anything. It's true that I almost lost my life. By the way, Master's wife, is there any movement in the cultivation world?" Seeing that he didn't want to talk more about the demon ghost realm, the 100 Charms beauty glared at him with her bright eyes. Then she yawned and said lazily, "There is some movement you want, but it's not big. I'm afraid you will be disappointed." Yu Qianqiu immediately frowned and said, "How is it not big?" The 100 Charms beauty slowly closed her eyes. Her beautiful red lips opened and closed as she said, "The righteous and demon sects found the hiding place of the Yen father and son according to the map you gave them. They were really shocked by the strength of the island. The 2 sects sent people to investigate also lost more than half of their men. Because the threat of the Yen father and son was too big, the righteous and demon sects wanted to join forces to eliminate them. Who knew that the 10,000 demons of the demon sects would have an internal dispute? They were reluctant to take action. As a result, the supporting Immortals Island also didn't dare to take action." "Master's wife, what is going on? Could it be that the 10,000 demons want to protect the Yen father and son?" Yu Qianqiu said in a deep voice. The 100 Charms beauty still had her eyes closed. She shook her head and said, "The 10,000 demons originally planned to eliminate them together with the righteous sects. Then, someone suggested that the previous palace master, who was Yen Bugui's father, should personally recruit Yen Bugui back to the 10,000 demons. One must know that Yen Bugui's current strength was not weak. If they could summon Yen Bugui back, it would be equivalent to the myriad demons palace taking over his strength. At that time, the position of supporting Immortal Island as the #1 sect in the cultivation world would be taken over by the myriad demons palace." This suggestion immediately made the entire myriad demons palace palpitate. Recently, the 10,000 demons sent people to the demon sects to act as lobbyists. "Lobbyists?" Yu Qianqiu frowned thoughtfully and said, "What do you mean?" "It's very simple." The 100 Charms beauty opened her eyes and smiled. The 10,000 demons said that the hero has always been against the righteous sects and has never attacked the demon sects. Moreover, the righteous sects have always been suppressing the demon sects. If the 10,000 demons could take over Yen Bugui's strength, the demon sects might be able to suppress the righteous sects. This reason is indeed tempting to the entire demon sects. However, there is no impenetrable wall in the world. After the righteous sects learned of this, they didn't dare to make any rash moves. Yen Bugui's strength isn't weak. If they want to attack, they will have to contribute a lot. Especially the supporting Immortals Island, they will have to put in a lot of effort. If the demon sects turn against them at this time, the supporting Immortals Island won't be able to handle the consequences. Therefore it became a stalemate. Yen Bugue and his son are safe and sound, and the movement you wanted didn't happen. The hero has always been against the righteous sects? Humph. Yu Qianqiu muttered. He looked out of the window and narrowed his eyes. He suddenly turned back and said, Master's wife, I believe you have the information about the demon sects? Can you give me a copy of it? The temptress smiled meaningfully and asked, What are you trying to do? Haven't the 10,000 demons been lobbying everywhere? I think they've gone crazy from wanting to be the world's #1. How can there be such a cheap title? Yu Qianqiu laughed coldly and said, It's time for the demon sects to put pressure on the 10,000 demons. Hee hee. I knew a little fox like you wouldn't be content with your lot. The temptress giggled. She straightened herself up and used her fingers to pull out a small jade archive from between the two plump mounds of her undergarment. She tossed it to Yu Qianqiu. Yu Qianqiu caught the jade archive and felt the warmth from it. He stared at the other party's plump mounds in astonishment and was momentarily lost in thought. Damn it! This master's wife is really powerful. She actually left the thing there. Chapter 283. As he was in a trance, he suddenly caught a glimpse of the temptress's flirtatious smile. Yu Qianqiu coughed and retracted his gaze. He lowered his head and pretended he hadn't seen anything. He used his divine sense to check the contents of the jade archive and asked casually to cover up his embarrassment. Mistress, aside from these, has anything else happened in the cultivation world recently? The temptress pretended she didn't notice his obscene gaze. She lay on her side and smiled faintly. A bunch of trivial things. You definitely won't be interested in them. The bigger the commotion was caused by the Wu clan, one of the 4 major clans that you're on good terms with. Some time ago, the Wu clan's auction house sold 2 7-star blood orchids within a few days. They were worth tens of millions of high-grade spirit stones. I don't know who sold them to. It's strange that the 7-star blood orchids haven't been seen for many years. It's incredible that 3 of them have appeared recently. It's strange indeed. Yu Qianqiu pretended to be surprised. In fact, he knew the seller was him. If the temptress hadn't reminded him, he would have almost forgotten he had sold 2 blood orchids. Speaking of the 4 great clans, he couldn't help but think of the 4 old fellows who were very disloyal and left him alone in the demon domain. Although he understood that the 4 of them had no choice, he still hated them to the point of gnashing his teeth. He thought, damn it. I can't vent my anger without taking advantage of them. It's strange that the 7-star blood orchids appeared at the same time. The temptress twisted her body to make herself more comfortable. She stared at him and said with a smile, In any case, you are very resourceful. I only gave you the address of the cave last time, and you were able to find the lair of that fake hero. Why don't you find out who the owner of the blood orchids is? They're good stuff. Who knows, you might be able to find them. Damn it. There's no need to find out. I'm the owner. Yu Qianqiu nodded solemnly. Mistress, you're right. There's something strange about this. It looks like I'll have to go to the Wu clan. That. He changed the topic and stood up. If there's nothing else, mistress, I'll take my leave. The allure enchantress glanced at him. It was rare that she didn't make things difficult for him. She waved her hand weakly and said, I won't send you off. After Yu Qianqiu withdrew respectfully, she stood up unhurriedly and walked slowly to the side of the window with her bare feet, and she sighed faintly as she watched the figure that was dressed like a servant vanish. Even though she cultivated a charm technique, she knew that her every movement had a charm that could seduce men. However, the methods that she used to seduce Yu Qianqiu were intentional. She didn't know why, but it was as if she was hoping that Yu Qianqiu would really do something improper to her. This kind of mentality had never been experienced by other men. Could it be that she had fallen for him? The allure enchantress was startled by her own sudden thought. She gently leaned against the window and was absent-minded. She recalled the first time she met this young man. He was being held by the neck by Lu Wanwan, but there wasn't a trace of panic in his eyes. His eyes were still filled with hope even in that kind of adversity. Up until now, every time they met, the hidden hope in his eyes had never been extinguished. No matter how many obstacles he had experienced, even if he was expelled from the sect twice and was hunted by the entire cultivation world, he had always strived forward, turned the tide, and did what he wanted to do. Always filled with hope, always strived forward, always persisted in his ideals, not afraid of failure, and always strived forward. Such a man is indeed very attractive to women. Could it be that even I am attracted to him? It can't be. The allure enchantress muttered to herself and looked out of the window with a confused expression. It was deep into the night. On top of a mountain, the whistling mountain wind was blowing at Yu Qianqiu, who was wrapped in black clothes. At the side, Guan Yu looked at the brightly lit area at the foot of the mountain. He could vaguely hear the sound of wine cups clinking. There was a small demonic sect there. At that moment, a group of people was holding a banquet, drinking wine and eating meat happily. I envy the demonic sects for being unrestrained and enjoying themselves in a timely manner. Almost every family is like that. Guan Yu shook his head. After seeing the signal that the encirclement had been completed, he turned his head and asked, "Boss, are we going to kill them all like before?" Yu Qianqiu said in a deep voice, "Kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive." The reason why he didn't recruit people to Utopia and wanted to kill them all was so that the demonic sects could see the tragic scene, so that they could exert pressure on the 10,000 demons. He had worked hard to create this situation and expose the Yen father and son duo. How could he let the 10,000 demons reap the fruits of his labor? How could he let the 10,000 demons destroy his plan? This was something that he absolutely could not allow. Without hesitation, Guan Yu sent out a signal to the people below. Outside the courtyard of the central hall of the temple built against the mountain, human figures rose and fell. A group of people quickly launched a strong attack. Bang bang dang dang. The sounds of intense fighting immediately came. Yu Qianqiu looked down coldly. This small demonic sect actually only had a few hundred people, but Yu Qianqiu had mobilized a group of more than 1,000 people to besiege them. Although it was to ensure that no one was spared, he had no other choice. He had already destroyed 7 demonic sects in a row. They were all small sects, but he had also paid a third of the casualties in each battle. Such a huge proportion of casualties made Yu Qianqiu's heart sink. Although there were more and more people in the underworld, they were not on the same level as the few hundred people he had taken in the Face Spectre region. Those few hundred people were the elites of the various sects to begin with. In addition, they had been through training in the Face Spectre region, so they had rich battle experience. Those who joined later could not compare to them in terms of cultivation or experience. He needed to constantly fight to train this team. Otherwise, it would be useless even if their cultivation levels increased. After one battle, Yu Qianqiu immediately made a decision. For the next few battles, he would use a rotation strategy. Every time he fought in a different location, he would switch to a different team. He did not mind losing some people. Only those who survived every battle would become elites in the future. He had planned on attacking 5 sects in 10 locations, but when he saw this situation, he immediately decided to fight 3 more battles. Utopia had 8 teams, so he had to fight at least once. With the absolute advantage in numbers, the battle ended very quickly. After the well-trained team members cleaned up the battlefield, the leader of the team quickly rushed over and happily reported to Guan Yu that the battle had ended. However, Yu Qianqiu looked at the leader and asked, "How many people died on our side?" The leader was stunned and could not speak for a long time. When he saw Yu Qianqiu's gaze turn cold, he immediately puffed out his chest and said, "Reporting leader. 277 people from my team died in battle. That means that, including those who are injured, your team has at least 300 people dead?" Yu Qianqiu's tone did not show any happiness or displeasure. The leader gritted his teeth and reported again. "Reporting leader. There are 105 people with light and heavy injuries, and 382 people dead. What you're saying is, if I let your regiment participate in 4 more battles, your regiment will be wiped out and your regiment's designation and organization will be revoked. Is that right?" Yu Qianqiu's voice turned grim. "That's right. That's right. The leader was so anxious that he could not speak. Under the black cloth, his forehead was already drenched in sweat. He had never heard his leader say such sharp words to his subordinates. Yu Qianqiu immediately stared at him and shouted, "What about me? What am I doing as a leader? Over 1,000 people annihilated a small demonic sect with only a few hundred people, and you actually lost close to 400 people? Do you still think that you won the battle? Humph. If you can't continue being a leader, I can consider changing someone else. Someone who can fight a good battle for me. The leader lowered his head speechlessly. Guan Yu said awkwardly, "Boss, let's talk when we get back. If we stay here for too long, we might attract trouble." "And you?" Yu Qianchou pointed a finger at Guan Yu and shouted, "What are you doing as a chief instructor? The 8 battles have reduced my combat strength by nearly 2 teams. If I were to let you guys fight a tough battle, would I have to rebuild my troops after all of you die? This is because some of the team members' cultivation levels are too weak." Guan Yu wanted to explain, but he was immediately interrupted by Yu Qianchou with a wave of his hand. "Don't talk to me about those useless things." After saying that, he flew down to where the troops were gathered. Guan Yu shook his head helplessly and patted the leader's shoulder. He said with a bitter smile, "The leader is really angry this time. Let's go down and talk when we get back." The two of them followed. At the foot of the mountain, Yu Qianchou looked at the group of people in front of him, who were carrying the corpses of their comrades. He held back his anger and did not explode. When Guan Yu and the other man arrived, Yu Qianchou released his divine sense and everyone disappeared. Once they returned to Utopia, Yu Qianchou walked around on the spot with his hands behind his back and shouted, "Guan Yuncheng, gather all the troops." A loud and clear horn sounded, and everyone quickly gathered on the big field. Yu Qianchou jumped onto the platform and looked at the remaining 7,000 over people. His heart ached. Out of the 8 teams that had close to 10,000 people, there were only slightly more than 6 teams left. The atmosphere was heavy, especially for the 8 leaders who were standing at the front. They felt like they could not even lift their heads. "We've lost nearly 2 teams' worth of troops." Yu Qianchou waved 2 fingers at the crowd with an exasperated expression. He suddenly pointed at Guan Yu and said, "Your chief instructor said that some of the team members' cultivation levels are too weak." "That's right, that's undeniable. But what's the purpose of forming an army? In a group battle, we have to pay attention to strategy and tactics, right? Yet your commanders don't care about the strength of the team members or the order of their attacks. All 8 teams are the same. All of them charge forward just because they have the numbers advantage. Is this a war? What's the difference between this and gangsters fighting on the streets of the secular world? Brothers, fighting a war isn't entirely about courage and brute strength. You have to use your brains. You have to use your brains to think about how you can obtain the greatest victory with the smallest price." As there were many people around, he deliberately circulated his quintessential essence to speak loudly. His voice reverberated in the field, and it was only his voice. Everyone else was silent. The more Yu Qianchou spoke, the angrier he became. He had personally witnessed 8 battles today, and there was nothing he could say about their bravery. All of them charged forward without any regard for their own lives. Their spirit was commendable, but he did not want to be unreasonable. After walking 2 rounds on the platform and trying his best to calm the anger in his heart, he continued, "I won't say much. From today onwards, everyone's monthly supply of spirit stones will be increased by 5 times. It'll be enough for you to absorb spiritual energy and refine it every month. Whoever is at the critical moment of breaking through, feel free to report any elixirs you need. I'll give you as many as you need. In short, our utopia doesn't lack spirit stones or elixirs. In the future, don't tell me that your cultivation levels are too low. Everyone's cultivation levels are at the end of the Tribulation Transcendent stage, so why would I form an army? I only have one request. All the training in the army must be close to actual combat. Commanders, spend some brains to think of the most effective strategies and tactics. Don't swarm forward in every situation. Who doesn't know how to send themselves to death? Then what else do I need you to train?" After saying that, he was about to get off the platform when he suddenly thought of something. He turned to look at the 8 regiment commanders and said to Guan Yu in a deep voice, "Yun Cheng, there are only 6 regiments here. We don't need 8 regiment commanders anymore. Immediately summarize the battle this time and merge the 8 regiments into 6 regiments. The regiment commanders of the 2 regiments with the worst performance will be removed and sent to the 2 best regiments to learn. If they learn well, they'll still have the chance to lead troops in the future. If they don't, the combat troops don't need such commanders. I don't want the lives of my subordinates to be messed around by such brainless commanders. If they can't do it, Then they'll be Chen Feng's assistants. After saying that, he left with a dark expression. Everyone below the platform kept quiet out of fear. No one dared to make a sound. This was the first time they had seen their leader so angry. Yu Chonggue and his wife were taking a stroll nearby. When they heard the bugle, they were curious and went to take a look outside the military camp. To their surprise, they saw their son scolding people angrily. The couple looked at each other. They had not expected their son to have such a side to him. It was a little scary. After he left, the thousands of people did not dare to move or make a sound. Chapter 284. They immediately carried out Yu Chencho's orders to summarize and reorganize. The 2 regiment commanders were immediately dismissed, and the 8 regiments were reduced to 6 regiments. Following that, the vigorous and almost cruel training that was close to actual combat began. The remaining 6 regiment commanders were under great pressure. However, the generous treatment was something that they could not enjoy outside. It was also from this day onwards that the Hero Army had an unforgettable training goal. Everything revolved around actual combat training. There was no need to beat the drum heavily. After Yu Qianqiu finished his lecture, he left. If he had to do everything himself, he would not have the time to do anything else. Although he looked relaxed, only he knew how many things he had to worry about. It was impossible to focus all his energy on the troops. After receiving the message from Ling Feng and the other 2, Yu Qianqiu once again arrived at the back garden of the general's residence. It turned out that the 3 of them had come to bid farewell to him. On the surface, almost everyone with spirit roots in the capital had been searched by them. It would not be easy to infiltrate deeper. The capital was a place with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. If they went overboard, they would definitely attract the attention of others. It might even attract trouble. The 3 of them decided to search all over the country and seek a meeting with Yu Qianqiu to seek his opinion. Yu Qianqiu immediately agreed and gave the 3 of them a large amount of spirit pills and spirit stones. He told them to be careful and to call him if there was any danger. Shi Shaotian also gave the 3 of them a large amount of money to make it easier for them to travel in the secular world. After sending the 3 of them off, Shi Shaotian sighed. I really envy their lives. They can travel everywhere. No one is restraining you. If you want to go, just go. Yu Qianqiu said. Shi Shaotian shook his head and smiled bitterly. I really can't stop worrying about my family. Forget it, let's not talk about it. By the way, boss, stay a few more days this time. After Ling Feng and the other 2 leave, I don't even know who to talk to. Let's have a good chat. Yu Qianqiu glanced at him and understood that those who had embarked on the path of cultivation did not have much in common with ordinary people, even if they were family members. Actually, he was the same. Although his parents had been sent to Utopia, he didn't have anything in common with them. Every time they met, his mother would ask if he had eaten, and he didn't know how to answer. Was he supposed to tell his mother that he had eaten a few days ago or half a month ago? He could only casually say that he had eaten. This was the difference between cultivators and mortals. They really did not have much in common. A few more days? Yu Qianqiu smiled in a self-deprecating manner. He paced back and forth in the garden, thinking that he had to return as soon as possible before Bai Chongqun returned to Obedient Island. Where would he find the time to stay here for a few more days? He had already been delayed by the matter of the Devil Path. He walked to a field of golden chrysanthemums and casually plucked one and sniffed it. Then, he smilingly said to Shi Shaotian, things are different now. I'm afraid I don't have time to accompany you. Someone owes me tens of millions of upper-grade spirit stones, and I haven't even paid them yet. I have to get them back with interest. Owes you tens of millions of upper-grade spirit stones? Shi Shaotian was stunned. He couldn't figure out just how rich his boss was. In any case, every time his boss gave him spirit stones, he would toss over tens of thousands of upper-grade spirit stones, which was more than enough for him to use. However, tens of millions of upper-grade spirit stones sounded a little shocking. Is it a lot? The more people you take care of, the more expenses you have. Yu Qianqiu shook his head and casually threw the chrysanthemum in his hand away. Let's not talk about this anymore. I'm going to collect the debt. In the Wu family's quiet guest house, Yu Qianqiu appeared in the room that he had stayed in before. It was empty, and there was only a faint fragrance that belonged to a woman. It was faintly discernible, but it gave him a familiar feeling. He didn't think too much about it and was about to leave the room. When he passed by the open window, he glanced over and was slightly startled. An old acquaintance with a voluptuous bosom, the young lady Wu Lixue, was slowly walking into the garden with her head lowered. Yu Qianqiu's nostrils flared as he inhaled the fragrance of a woman's body in the room. He remembered who this fragrance belonged to. He looked out the window at the young lady who was walking downstairs with her head lowered. He smiled slightly, but his smile was a little evil. He turned around and sat down on a chair facing the door. As expected, Wu Lixue really pushed open the door. Unexpectedly, he didn't know what was in this girl's head, but it was so heavy that she couldn't even lift her head. Yu Qianqiu knocked on the coffee table beside him with his knuckles. Wu Lixue raised her head when she heard the sound. When she saw him, she rubbed her eyes in disbelief. Her half-dead eyes suddenly glowed with a strange vitality. She walked over and reached out her hand to stroke Yu Qianqiu's face. "What's wrong with this girl?" Yu Qianqiu was stunned by her touch. He immediately grabbed her hand and asked suspiciously, "Wu Lixue, what are you doing?" "Wah! Yu Qianqiu, it's really you." Wu Lixue cheered and said, "Weren't you trapped in the demon ghost domain? How did you escape? How did you come here? Do you know that I was really worried about you?" Her smiling eyes actually became moist, giving birth to a pool of autumn water. It was unknown whether she was happy or sad. Yu Qianqiu was not a fool. Moreover, he was an experienced guy. How could he not know the reason why she liked him? He knew it before. But because of his relationship with Wu Liqing, although the girl was not only beautiful but also had a hot body, he was embarrassed to open his mouth and eat her. So he calmed his inner demon and deliberately avoided her. However, he didn't come here with good intentions. The 4 old guys of the 4 families left him alone. Although there was a reason, he was so angry that his teeth hurt. In addition to collecting debts, he also wanted to collect some interest. As for the one in front of him, Yu Qianqiu didn't answer her. He grabbed her hand and pulled her to sit on his lap. His other hand quickly wrapped around her slender waist. It happened so suddenly. Wu Lixue wanted to struggle to stand up, but she felt weak all over. Her delicate body trembled and she said in a panicked tone, "Yu Qianqiu, what are you doing? Did you miss me?" Yu Qianqiu wrapped his arms around her waist and whispered in her ear. He could feel her body trembling as he breathed. Wu Lixue felt her body was boiling hot, especially her face. She could hear the sound of her heart beating. After a long time, she bit her lips and said, "Anne, do you still remember when I said that you were my woman?" Yu Qianqiu blew into her ear again, and the latter replied with an almost inaudible "N." Yu Qianqiu said softly, "Then do you want to be my real woman?" Wu Lixue's mind was immediately in a mess. Under the urging of Yu Qianqiu's magic voice, she couldn't help but nod. Yu Qianqiu immediately picked her up by the waist. He used one hand to close the door and window and walked to the soft bed in the room. Her skin was as white as her name, Lixue. Her body was breathtakingly curvy. The ups and downs were intoxicating, and the secluded parts were uncontrollable. Yu Qianqiu vented to his heart's content on the most perfect body he had ever seen. Wu Lixue herself also forgot where she was. After the excruciating pain, she bit her lips and forgot herself. After a long time, Yu Qianqiu got up and put on his clothes. He looked at the beauty who didn't dare to look at him because of shyness. His eyes swept over the red spots on the bed, and his expression softened a lot. He reached out and pulled the quilt for the beauty. He smiled refreshingly and said, "You rest. I have something to discuss with your grandfather." Her head under the quilt moved, probably nodding. Yu Qianqiu went out with a smile. After leaving the garden, the proud expression on his face didn't disappear. He walked forward with his head held high. He thought, "This interest is good. I won't lose out." Chapter 285. Not long after, a Wu clan's disciple blocked the way. Yu Qianqiu was a famous person in the Wu clan. Everyone knew that he was the clan head's guest. Seeing that it was Yu Qianqiu, the disciple looked around and found it strange that there was no one accompanying him. He naturally didn't think that Yu Qianqiu had stolen it. He bowed and said, "So it is Mr. Yu. May I know where Mr. is going?" Yu Qianqiu had just entered the bridal chamber, so he was in a good mood. He smiled and said, "Is your clan head in? I have something to discuss with him." The disciple replied respectfully without any suspicion. Clan head should be in the ancestral shrine. "Mister, please follow me." After speaking, he led Yu Qianqiu to the ancestral shrine. After arriving, the disciple explained the purpose of his visit to the guard at the entrance. The guard immediately went in to report, and soon, Wu Sihai led a group of Wu clan's elders out. Seeing Yu Qianqiu, Wu Sihai's face was filled with disbelief. The group of elders looked at Wu Sihai suspiciously. At this moment, Yu Qianqiu had already withdrawn the smile on his face. His expression sank as he stared at Wu Sihai and said coldly, "Why? Does Senior Wu not recognize this one?" Even though he had just slept with his granddaughter, he still had to put on an act to vent his anger. Wu Sihai's face flashed with a trace of shame. Back then, he had kindly brought the heads of the 4 major clans to the Demon Ghost region and found the old ancestor. In the end, the 4 of them didn't dare to bear the old ancestor's anger and left Yu Qianqiu alone. There wasn't even a single person who pleaded for mercy. The 4 of them were ashamed on the way back and felt that they had let Yu Qianqiu down. They didn't expect him to return safely. Wu Sihai looked at the Wu clan's disciple and smiled. "Yu Qianqiu is here. Come in quickly. This isn't a place to talk." After speaking, he pulled Yu Qianqiu inside. Only Wu Sihai and the Wu clan's elder council's elders were left in the ancestral hall. One of the elders questioned, "Master, didn't you say that Yu Qianqiu was trapped by the great ancestor? Why is he here again? Could it be that what you said before was false?" "Yeah. This tone doesn't sound right. Could it be that he was caught up in the fun?" Yu Qianqiu looked at everyone and felt that the atmosphere was a little strange. Wu Sihai's attention shifted from him to the elder and he said in a deep voice, "Everyone has seen the power of the spirit treasure. Apart from the great ancestor, who else would give the spirit treasure to the 4 clans?" The elder said with a gloomy expression, "I didn't say that the treasure wasn't given by the old ancestor, but I don't believe that the old ancestor would say that only your direct blood relative can inherit the Wu clan's clan head position." As soon as he finished speaking, the people behind him immediately echoed, "That's right. It's impossible for the ancestor to say something like that. Would the clan head lie?" Wu Sihai was also supported by a group of people behind him. Yu Qianqiu's eyes wandered between the 2 groups of people. He had a rough understanding of the situation. He reckoned that the people who opposed Wu Sihai's group were the people from the 4 major clans who advocated for the 4 clans to go their separate ways. It seemed that after Wu Sihai returned with the spirit treasure and relayed by Changchun's words, the other group of people refused to surrender. "Master, it's not that I don't believe you, but this matter is of great importance. No one believes that the old ancestor would say such a thing. If you really want everyone to believe it, I'm afraid you have to verify it with the old ancestor," the elder said in a neutral tone. Wu Sihai's chest heaved up and down. He was a little annoyed and said, "Wu Zhenggeng, the old ancestor instructed us not to disturb him. If you insist on going, I won't stop you. However, the consequences of offending the old ancestor will be very serious. Don't blame me for not telling you in advance." "Hee. This is really strange." Someone laughed sinisterly and said, "Why is this old ancestor saying things that are disadvantageous to us and beneficial to others? Moreover, he is the Bai clan's old ancestor and not our Wu clan's. Even if he really said those words, why should our Wu clan listen to him?" As soon as this was said, even the leader, Wu Zhenggeng, frowned. He turned around and shouted, "Shut up! It's all thanks to the old ancestor that our Wu clan can have what we have today. If it's really the old ancestor, the Wu clan will not dare to disobey." No one knew if he was sincere or not, but at least on the surface, he didn't dare to erase Bai Changchun's position in the 4 major clans. Wu Sihai glanced at the person who spoke rudely and waved his hand. "After being entangled for so many days, I don't want to say anything more. It's useless to say more. Since you want to find the old ancestor, then go. I won't stop you. When you find the old ancestor, you will naturally know whether what I said is true or false. Thank you, Patriarch, for fulfilling my wish. However..." Wu Zhenggeng changed the topic, and his gaze paused on Yu Qianqiu, who was watching the show with his arms crossed before he said, "The demon region is extremely dangerous. I'm afraid it was all thanks to Yu Qianqiu leading the way that Patriarch was able to smoothly find the ancestor on this trip to the demon region, right?
That's right. Wu Sihai nodded and admitted.
Wu Zhonggang stroked his beard and pondered for a while before saying, I'm sure the Patriarch doesn't want us to be in danger.
If that's the case, please let Yu Qianqiu accompany us. Hearing that, Wu Sihai immediately frowned. Yu Qianqiu, who was watching the show, was taken aback. Why did it involve me?
After he reacted, his face sank.
He stared at Wu Zhonggang and sneered. I've never seen such a shameless old thing. You're called Wu Zhonggang, right? What do you think I, Yu Qianqiu, am? What qualifications do you have for me to lead the way? What a big joke.
The words, shameless old thing, and me, made the Wu clan's ancestral hall burst into an uproar. Countless people shouted angrily, How dare you!
However, how could Yu Qianqiu be afraid of them?
Except for the soul formation stage cultivators, he really didn't care about anyone else.
It couldn't be helped.
He was a snobbish person who would always stare at the highest person. At this moment, Yu Qianqiu had the feeling of frowning at thousands of people. Because of his arrogant words, Wu Zhonggang was so angry that he couldn't say anything.
His face was ashen. The group of elders behind Wu Sihai didn't say anything.
Their expressions were all twisted. It was probably because they were trying to hold back their laughter. This was probably the first time they saw Wu Zhonggang being humiliated. However, when the other group of elders saw Yu Qianqiu's indifferent expression, they couldn't stand it anymore.
3 elders flashed out and surrounded Yu Qianqiu.
Their faces were filled with rage, and it seemed like they wanted to settle this matter by force.
Yu Qianqiu narrowed his eyes.
He looked at the 3 of them and sneered.
What? Are you tired of living? You want to fight me?
The coldness in his words startled the 3 of them. Only now did they remember that Yu Qianqiu was famous in the 100 Flowers Valley for his strange fire techniques. The 3 of them immediately took a few steps back and didn't dare to get too close.
How dare you, Yu Qianqiu?
How dare you come to my Wu clan's ancestral hall and behave atrociously?
Are you courting death?
Wu Zhonggang flew into a rage out of humiliation.
Yu Qianqiu glanced at him contemptuously.
He turned to Wu Sihai and said in a deep voice, Senior Wu, do you know that on Obedient Island, when Elder Bai heard that some of your clans wanted to separate from the clan, he specially gave each of your clan masters a spirit treasure?
What does this mean?
Don't tell me you don't know, or that you don't want to do it. As soon as these words came out, the whole place was silent. Even the furious Wu Zhonggang looked at Wu Sihai with a flicker in his eyes.
Wu Sihai's heart skipped a beat.
The old ancestor did this purely to take care of his descendants. There shouldn't be any special meaning. However, when this brat connected the whole story, the meaning was very different.
It was enough to deter some people.
He shook his head and smiled bitterly. How could I not know the old ancestor's meaning? But unless I have no other choice, I really don't want to do it.
We all have the same roots.
Sigh.
Yu Qianqiu laughed in his heart.
This old guy is quite talented in acting. He snorted coldly and said, Forget it if you don't want to say it.
This is your clan's private matter. Why should I be the bad guy?
Senior Wu, the 2 blood orchids have also been auctioned. I will leave immediately after taking the money. I won't meddle in your affairs. So the 2 blood orchids are his.
Everyone was shocked. Most people still didn't know.
Wu Sihai nodded. Just as he was about to say something, he heard Wu Zhonggang shouted, Clan Master, please wait. The spirit stones that were auctioned can't be given to him for the time being. When Yu Qianqiu heard this, his eyes narrowed again. The killing intent that he suppressed with great difficulty rose again. Just now, he felt a little guilty thinking that he had slept with the Wu clan's woman and then fought with the Wu clan's man in the blink of an eye. So, he conveniently helped Wu Sihai to eliminate the little bit of guilt in his heart.
Nah. He had to wait and see.
The green fire in his body had a feeling of rushing out uncontrollably.
Chapter 286.
Wu Sihai frowned and said, Grand Elder, did you forget about our Wu clan's auction house's rules? Our Wu clan has never embezzled spirit stones from any seller. Not only the clan head, but even the elders behind Wu Zhonggang frowned. The Wu clan relied on their auction house's reputation to have a foothold in the cultivation world. It didn't matter if the 4 major clans separated or not. Even if they did, they couldn't do anything that would damage the Wu clan's auction house's reputation. Otherwise, the Wu clan wouldn't be able to have a foothold in the cultivation world. Clan head has misunderstood. I only said that I can't give it to him for now. I didn't say I would embezzle it. Wu Zhonggang stared at Yu Qianqiu and spoke in a deep voice. I am the Wu clan's Elder Council's Grand Elder. Right now, in this Wu clan's ancestral shrine, I, the Grand Elder, was actually insulted by an outsider in public. This isn't just a loss of my face, but the entire Wu clan's face. You have to apologize with sincerity, otherwise. Otherwise what? Yu Qianqiu's squinted eyes slowly opened. Otherwise, even if I let you go, my Wu clan's descendants won't let you go. Wu Zhonggong's words were no less than an order. The elders behind him spread out and stood in their positions, blocking any possible escape route for Yu Qianqiu. Yu Qianqiu surveyed the surroundings, but there was no expression on his face. He asked Wu Sihai, Old man, your Wu clan is truly reasonable. I have experienced it. After speaking, he looked at Wu Zhonggang and asked, What kind of sincerity do you want me to show as an apology? Wu Zhonggang raised his brows and revealed an ominous glint in his eyes. If you really have the intention to apologize, then leave behind an arm or a leg. I will let you take the spirit stones and leave the Wu clan. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving. So that's the case. Yu Qianqiu nodded and looked at Wu Sihai again. Old man, does his words represent the entire Wu clan's opinion? Wu Sihai frowned deeply. Although Wu Zhonggang was making things difficult for him, his words were reasonable. Yu Qianqiu insulted him in front of everyone. Not to mention it was in the Wu clan's ancestral shrine. Indeed, it was not only Wu Zhonggang who lost face, but the entire clan. If they let Yu Qianqiu leave just like that, they wouldn't be able to answer to the entire family. However, Yu Qianqiu was not someone to be trifled with. No one knew how strong the power behind him was. Moreover, he was a benefactor of the 4 great clans. In a dilemma, Wu Sihai muttered, Yu Qianqiu, just bow and apologize to the Great Elder. He then turned to Wu Zhonggang and sighed. Great Elder, there are some things you don't understand. I'll talk to you in detail later. In short, just give me some face and don't haggle over every ounce. Wu Zhonggong's eyes flickered as he didn't know what Wu Sihai was talking about. However, Yu Qianqiu chuckled and said, There's nothing wrong with bowing and apologizing, but I, Yu Qianqiu, never have the habit of apologizing to people who took the initiative to cause trouble. Old man, I think you should just hand over the spirit stones to me. I will put up with it and leave after taking the spirit stones. I will give the Wu clan some face and not fuss over this matter. Just treat it as if nothing happened. Hee. Clan head, you heard it too. It's not that I don't want to give you face, but this kid doesn't know how to appreciate favors. Wu Zhonggang immediately grasped the weakness he wanted and yelled out, Yu Qianqiu, you are a person who betrayed your sect twice. You are already a scum that everyone wants to punish. Today, my Wu clan will eradicate you on behalf of the cultivation world. Say it again. Yu Qianqiu burst out with a yell. The words of betraying the sect twice had made him very unhappy. Perhaps it had touched his reverse scale. Suddenly, 2 balls of green flames appeared in his glaring eyes, and a demonic green light burst out from his eye sockets. Such a strange phenomenon immediately shocked everyone, and Wu Zhonggang, who was looking at him, was even more astonished. However, he immediately reacted as he was the Grand Elder, so how could he be frightened by a strange phenomenon? He immediately retorted, Say it again 10 times. Yu Qianqiu is still a scum of the cultivation world who betrayed his sect twice. You are courting death. Yu Qianqiu let out a muffled groan, and when he lifted his hand, there was a small wisp of green flame burning on one of his fingers. It was small and weak, and it looked like it might extinguish at any moment. With a flick of his finger, that wisp of green flame drew out a green radiance and shot at Wu Zhonggang. Wu Zhonggang was disdainful, and with a wave of his hand, a gust of wind blew the green flame to the side. Between the 2 of them, one was in the middle stage of the crossing calamity stage, and the other was in the middle stage of the core formation stage. The difference in cultivation between the 2 was too large, or else Yu Qianqiu's green flame wouldn't have been so easily blown away. However, What made people feel strange was that the small wisp of green flame wasn't extinguished by Wu Zhenggang's gust of wind. After it fell to the feet of the person beside him, it still stuck to the ground and burned, as if it didn't cause any harm. Yu Qianqiu looked at it from the side, and his eyebrows slightly raised. With a wang sound, that wisp of green flame instantly expanded countless times, and the green radiance flourished. A ball of green flame suddenly appeared, and immediately enveloped the person standing in front of it. Wu Zhengang and the people behind him were shocked, and wanted to extinguish that ball of green flame to save the person, but in that instant, the frighteningly high temperature immediately forced the group of people to move away, let alone save the person. Ah! Before even half a scream, the person in the fire immediately withered on the ground and turned into ashes. The temperature in the main hall rose sharply as the ball of green flame rose in the middle. It was frighteningly high, unimaginably high. Everyone in the Wu clan retreated to the side of the main hall, but they still felt that it was unbearable, and even breathing was difficult. The entire main hall of the ancestral shrine was illuminated by the green flame. Yu Qianqiu walked to the front of the green flame, and gently felt the flame brushing against his fingers. He expressionlessly looked around at the shocked faces around him. In the main hall of the Ghost King in the Demon Ghost domain, Wu Sihai, who had personally experienced the power of Yu Qianqiu's red flame, suddenly narrowed his eyes. This ball of green flame was obviously much more powerful than the red flame. Fortunately, when the ancestral shrine hall was built, it was made of stone in order to prevent fire. Otherwise, it would have been on fire long ago. But the wooden ancestral tablets, tables and chairs that were enshrined in the main hall were already on fire. Bai Chongqun's portrait had already turned into ashes. After a while, the stone ancestral shrine hall had already exploded. The surrounding walls were turning black, and then cracked and began to peel off layer by layer. Wu Sihai looked around and shouted anxiously, "Yu Qianqiu, quickly stop. Even if you don't care about this old man's face, you should care about Li Qing's face. This is the Wu clan's ancestral shrine." "Wu Liqing?" Yu Qianqiu muttered in a low voice. His brows furrowed slightly. He wasn't really thinking about Wu Liqing, but he was thinking about the dark red spots left on the bed after he and Wu Lixue had intercourse. A silly woman who gave her first time to him. Even if she was really silly, he couldn't destroy her family's ancestral shrine in a blink of an eye. If he really did that, how could he feel at ease in his heart? The hand that was gently caressing the green flame turned into an upside-down claw, and the raging green flame was sucked clean into the palm in the blink of an eye. Yu Qianqiu secretly shook his head. Sometimes, he was still too soft-hearted. The green light in the main hall disappeared, and the surrounding walls turned black as if they were roasted by fire. However, they were indeed roasted by fire. "Yu Qianqiu, how dare you destroy my Wu clan's ancestral shrine? Come on. All the disciples of my Wu clan swear to kill this scum." Wu Zhengging shouted and took the lead to release a flying sword, which whistled towards Yu Qianqiu. Chapter 287. The flying sword shook the nearby airflow and a powerful deterrent followed. This was the power of a mid-stage tribulation passing cultivator. Wu Sihai shouted, "Wu Zhengang, stop!" But it was too late. Yu Qianqiu didn't have time to think too much. The speed and power of his opponent's attack were extremely shocking, so he didn't have time to think too much. With just a thought, the flying sword had already arrived in front of him with a terrifying aura. Ah! Yu Qianqiu let out a furious roar. In an instant, endless flames burst out of his body in the form of an explosion. They were azure flames. With his temper, he couldn't help but be angry. He listened to Wu Sihai and put away the green flame, but Wu Zhengang took the opportunity to attack. How could he swallow this anger? The green flames rushed over, and the surrounding people were shocked. Their gazes quickly swept across the surroundings, and they felt as though there was no way to escape. Everyone had experienced the power of the green flame before. An early-stage tribulation passing elder was burned to ashes in an instant. How could they dare to let it touch them? In desperation, the group of people directly swung their swords at the wall behind them. They broke a hole in the wall. Wu Zhengang didn't have a sword in his hand, but his cultivation was profound. With a backhand palm, a thick stone wall was blown away. His body followed the palm force and flashed out. Yu Qianqiu, who had released the fire, was even more shocked. He thought that the green flame would be able to melt the flying sword. He didn't expect that although the opponent's sword showed signs of melting, it was enough to take his life before it melted. The time he wasted due to his misjudgment made it too late for him to dodge. Inside the storage pouch, a series of cold lights flew out like lightning. With almost zero error, they collided with the flying sword one after another. The almost indiscernible sound was produced by the continuous attacks of nearly 20 flying swords. Only then did the other party's flying sword's offensive was stopped. Without hesitation, Yu Qianchou waved his hand and condensed a tornado-like green flame. He stood in the sea of fire and used the flames to wrap around the flying sword, burning it at the highest temperature. As long as the flying sword was not destroyed, it was possible for the other party to attack from a distance. If the flying sword of a middle-stage tribulation passing cultivator attacked him continuously, he would not be able to withstand it. The walls of the Wu clan's ancestral shrine suddenly had a circle of holes. A person flashed out from each hole, and behind each person was a cyan fire dragon. Looking from the sky, the Wu clan's ancestral hall had turned into a multi-legged crab. The elders who escaped from the house stood far away, their expressions uncertain. They never thought that more than 40 crossing tribulation stage elders would be forced to flee by a young man in the core formation stage. In fact, they were still considered lucky. A few disciples who were guarding the entrance of the ancestral shrine didn't know what was going on and didn't have time to escape. They were instantly engulfed by the raging flames and didn't even have time to scream. Although it seemed slow, it was actually very fast. From the moment Wu Zhonggang made his move until now, only a few blinks of an eye had passed. After Wu Zhonggang steadied himself, he grimaced in anger. He wanted to summon his flying sword to continue attacking, but his expression changed. He discovered that he had just lost contact with his flying sword. The flying sword was destroyed? This was impossible. Wu Zhonggang looked at the cyan flames that had already engulfed the ancestral shrine in disbelief. As the great elder of the Wu clan's elder council, the flying sword he used was a middle-tier magic treasure. How could it be destroyed in an instant? Even a late-stage tribulation passing cultivator would need some effort to destroy it. Could it be that this cyan flame was so terrifying? Wu Zhonggang's pupils shrank as he looked at the burning flame. He didn't believe that Yu Qianchou could destroy his flying sword with his cultivation. The only possibility was this strange cyan flame. Wu Zhonggang, you are in big trouble. Wu Sihai, who was dozens of meters away, roared at him. Wu Sihai had always believed that there was a mysterious and powerful force behind Yu Qianchou. This time, he offended Yu Qianchou, and he didn't know what kind of revenge he would receive. He is just a rogue cultivator without anyone to rely on. Why should we be afraid of him? Wu Zhonggang replied loudly. He was feeling heartache for his flying sword. Furthermore, he didn't think that there would be any consequences after offending Yu Qianchou. He immediately waved his hand and yelled, "Everyone, surround the scum that destroyed our Wu clan's ancestral shrine. I don't believe that he will hide in the fire forever." Some of the elders who would listen to his orders immediately flew to all directions of the ancestral shrine. The azure flames soared into the sky and became the most eye-catching place in the entire Wu clan. The Wu clan's clansmen flew over one after another and gathered around in confusion. Those who were able to talk to the elders were all asking what was happening. Wu Liqing asked his grandfather, and when he found out that the culprit was Yu Qianchou, he was a little dumbfounded. He muttered to himself, "How could this be? How is this possible? Why would Brother Yu destroy our Wu clan's ancestral shrine?" Wu Sihai glared at Wu Zhonggang and said in a bad mood, "Isn't it because someone forced him to?" On the bustling Hat Island, there were taverns, tea-houses, and shops in great numbers. There were people coming and going on the streets. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Quickly look, what happened to the Wu clan?" Everyone looked over and saw a cyan light soaring into the sky from the Wu clan's direction. No one knew what was going on. Without anyone asking, as long as they had the ability to fly, they all jumped onto the roofs on both sides of the street to watch. "Oh my God! Is that cyan flame?" "It should be. Can't you see that it looks like a raging flame? Strange, why is there a cyan flame? What is the Wu clan doing? What's so strange about it?" Previously, I saw Yu Qianchou's star flame fire art in the 100 Flowers Valley. The raging flame he released was actually a scarlet red flame. Quickly look. There seems to be someone standing on the burning roof. Could it be that I saw wrongly? How can there be someone standing in the fire? A few flying swords pierced a hole on the roof with a rumbling sound. Yu Qianqiu flew out and stood on the roof while carrying the cyan raging flame. He looked around and fixed his eyes on Wu Zhenggang. Yu Qianqiu, who was looking down from above, had a gloomy gaze and didn't say a word. He was like a fire god, and his aura pressured everyone. Swish! The sound of high-speed flying echoed. Everyone turned around and looked over, including Yu Qianqiu. They saw 3 black dots flying over from the waterfall behind the Wu clan. The 3 black dots arrived in a few moments after traveling such a long distance. The 3 elders were floating in the air not far from Yu Qianqiu. Perhaps they felt the powerful temperature of the cyan flame. The 3 of them looked at each other in astonishment. Meanwhile, Yu Qianqiu was also sizing up the 3 of them. His heart thumped, and he knew that this was bad. From the speed of the 3 of them, they should be cultivators at the final stage of the Tribulation Transcendence realm. Looking at their attire, they were undoubtedly from the Wu clan. As expected, the Wu clan members below bowed in unison and said, "Greetings, clan elder." Wu Zhenggang originally wanted to call for everyone to make a move, but the clan elder with the highest seniority in the clan had arrived. It wasn't his turn to speak. The 3 old men standing in the air didn't care about the people below. The elder in the middle frowned and said, "Young man, who are you? Why are you burning our Wu clan's ancestral hall?" In this era, a clan's ancestral hall was the most sacred place of the clan. Destroying the ancestral hall was equivalent to making everyone in the clan an enemy. Yu Qianqiu knew that he wouldn't be able to gain the upper hand this time. 3 cultivators at the final stage of the Tribulation Transcendence realm came at once. Compared to a cultivator at the middle stage of the Tribulation Transcendence realm, the difference was like heaven and earth. Although the cyan flame was powerful, it was impossible for him to control the cyan flame with his current cultivation. Perhaps he could try when he reached the original infant stage, but if he tried now, he would be courting death. Yu Qianqiu didn't answer the elder's question. His gaze slowly shifted to Wu Zhenggang again. He coldly humphed and said, "Wu Zhenggang, you've gone too far." Then he looked around and coldly said, "Your Wu clan is ungrateful. You've gone too far. You actually wanted to steal the spirit stones I auctioned and even wanted to kill me to silence me. Hee. Very good, very good. Remember what happened today. How much you have stolen from me today. I will make you spit it out 10 times or even 100 times more in the future. As for you, Wu Zhenggang, your head is temporarily on your neck. Wait for me to take it. Hee. I, Yu Qianqiu, will make my words clear today. Everyone, just wait and see." You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.